Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of my new live podcast series called the Booncast. Absolutely brilliant name. So, welcome everyone who is joining in this lovely afternoon to my second episode, and I'm really excited again because, fortunately enough, I've got someone who you might have heard about, who you might have read about in the past couple of days, because there was a lot of buzz going through the sim racing community. And yeah, I think I don't want to really hold back the surprise everybody basically already knows about who is following my channel, and just jump over into our studio and, check out who's sitting there. Mike, welcome very
Hello.
much. Hello. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining into my second episode. And yeah, welcome to Boonatix.
Man, thank you so much for having me. It's a big step down from Chris Hay, but thank you just the same for having me.
No way, no way. I'm actually really excited to get you because I've been looking, for like adding guests to the list, interesting people who you can just, talk about sim racing, motorsports, and all the stuff that's going on, and spend some good time. And you're just, another brilliant guy who has been so long into the community. And I think a lot of people are really, interested and want to know more about you and yeah, how you got into sim racing and what's going on with you. So happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, anyone in chat, you are welcome to ask questions. Feel free to poke us, me, Mike, with anything that's on your mind. We will try and do our best to answer like any question that comes in. We don't make any promises, but we will try our best. Just let me know if when the sound's like too off for you, or you can't hear something or understand something. That would be very much appreciated. But I think we should be fine. So, Mike, where do we start? I mean, you've been into sim racing for quite a long time, right?
Yeah, I would say unofficially since about 2017. That's when I really got into sort of what you'd consider more of the hardcore racing sims. So I bought Assetto Corsa when it came out on PS4, and that's sort of my unofficial jump into sim racing, because I bought it and I remember I was just terrible at it. I couldn't do anything, and I had played racing games my whole life. And all of a sudden, I bought this Assetto Corsa game, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't complete a lap hardly, let alone win a race. So I did a little research, and then everyone was saying, "Well, you need to own a wheel. This is sim racing. This isn't a racing game." So I went out and bought a wheel, and it was a Logitech G29, which I'm sure yourself and a lot of viewers are familiar with. It's a great wheel, and so plugged that into my PlayStation 4 and was just completely, smitten by it. I think it's an incredible hobby, and the next step, of course, after racing on console is racing on PC, because it opens the doors to mods and things like that. So that's where I went after that. But I say that's sort of my unofficial start, but my official start, or maybe I've got the official unofficial backwards, whatever it is. But going back all the way to 1999, and Gran Turismo 1 was the first one that I would consider a racing sim. It mattered about weight transfer, it mattered about brake balance, and you had to have the right suspension, and it was more than just a hop into a Ferrari or Lamborghini and race a few laps kind of thing. So that's kind of my official unofficial start to sim racing, I suppose.
That's awesome. I actually was not aware that like Assetto Corsa was available on PlayStation 4. I thought it was like PC only.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I think your last guest, Mr. Chris Hay, I think he got into Assetto Corsa through console as well. I was on a show with him, and we were talking, and I believe he started out with console for Assetto Corsa as well. But it's so limited. By comparison, it's so limited because, of course, so much of Assetto Corsa is mods, as I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. But so much of Assetto Corsa is great mod cars and mod tracks, and so even though there is a lot of great base content in Assetto Corsa, I think once you bring the community into it, it really opens things up.
Yeah. So basically, your first experience with Assetto Corsa was playing with a gamepad, right? So
and yeah, I know there's people out there who can get very fast with a
I
gamepad, but
just wanted to
to
say that,
me,
yeah.
yeah, that's the most alien thing possible. Like again, I couldn't win a race, even the early races. Yeah, like it's just almost impossible to win them. And by the way, I remember this clearly when it came out. So many people were complaining about the difficulty because I guess it was sort of going mainstream at that point when it crossed over to console, and they had to add a very easy setting. So I think it was released with like easy, medium, hard, and then so many people complained like, "How the heck do you play this game?" And so they had to add a very easy. So I wasn't alone in my struggles, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody of us, like, for example, Chris is like stating in the chat right now, sim racing starts basically where everybody just finished racing from the police. Meaning, like, I think every one of us kind of was playing the Need for Speed or
Yeah.
Need for Speed Underground and stuff like that. I vividly remember the first Need for Speed, like, really the true classic first Need for Speed where you just were racing the stock road cars around tracks and getting chased by police on the keyboard and really struggling. And I think there was this one friend I had from school or like a family friend, I don't know, when I just remember this one thing when we visited him, he had a wheel. I don't know
Hmm.
what it was probably a Logitech or something. And I've being like not really into this much of like computer gaming. I mean, I had a computer and I was more or less like stocking playing like more like strategy stuff like that. And then you get into like the room of that one guy and he has a steering wheel in front of his computer and you're like, what the hell's going on there? And then you're trying to understand and trying to comprehend as a teenager who has no experience with cars, what the hell's going on there. So that was like, I think, my first like real touch point with the steering wheel, actually, that the one and only touch point in the last 30 years, I think, until I really got into sim racing. So it's crazy. So I really understand why people have been then struggling getting into Assetto Corsa when you're used to driving around tuned cars with
Hmm.
flames popping out, and then suddenly you get into a simulation and you're like, oh my god, that's just too hard.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much more complexity to it. For better or for worse, though, like for us, I mean, we've settled in. We love racing sims. We love tuning our cars. We love learning tracks and the subtleties of, race tuning and things of that nature. But at the same time, it kind of holds sim racing back when you think about it, because one of the issues that you run into is it's not accessible. Like
Mm.
during the past few weeks, as I'm sure we'll speak about soon, I had some downtime where I couldn't make content, so I was playing a lot of Need for Speed Heat, and I had a great
Mm.
time with it. It's just so accessible. You just jump in and you choose your favorite car, and there's hundreds of cars on offer, and you can customize the exhaust. It has flames spitting out of it, and so it's just a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
fun. And you just kind of throw it around the roads of this imaginary city, and again, it's just accessible. Anyone can do it. It's a lot of fun. So I understand why more people choose racing games over racing sims, but at the same time, sort of the nerd in me really likes the appeal of to, what would you say, managing every last detail of a car in order to make it work for you in a racing sim, I suppose.
Yeah.
Have you
I mean,
played Need for Speed Heat?
no, I didn't play Need for Speed Heat, but you're kind of making me want to play it because I just remember these good old times when, like, a friend in the early days got me the first Need for Speed Underground, and then you kind of get, what the hell is going on with me? This is so cool, and then you start
Yeah.
buying the car, and I just like the Toyota Supra that you have never seen before. Living in Austria, like cars like that, Japanese or American cars, you didn't really know that in Austria. You just know the typical German cars and stuff like that, you know?
Right.
And just seeing cars like the Toyota Supra or like the Mazda RX-7 and stuff, and then tuning them. And I think for every car, I had like 30 different designs and experimenting with, the exhausts and spoilers and stickers and shit like that. So it's like it was a game within a game. And then when Need for Speed Underground 2 came out, I was just playing it, I think, every day, countless of hours. Just, yeah, insane. And I think Lucas in chat is actually right. He says Underground 2 made racing games kind of cool and known, and that is kind of what opened up sim racing to quite a lot of people. And I think he's right about that.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say like you were introduced to cars through games, because that happened here in North America as well. Like the first I had ever heard about a Skyline was through Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
And like it's maybe not a known thing in Europe, but the Miata or MX-5 was
Yeah.
considered like the most girly car you could ever imagine. And none of my male peers would ever be caught dead driving a Miata. But then Gran Turismo came along, and you know, you were that was a solid car. The MX-5 was a solid car. It had good weight distribution, and the power to weight ratio was just right that you could squeeze a lot out of it. And it's kind of, I wouldn't say it changed the car culture in North America, but it certainly opened a lot of eyes to, you know, like what actually comprises a good car. Because you know, we love the Mustang over here in North America, and until about 10 or 15 years ago, it was just a straight line car. You couldn't turn with it. It had weird weight balance characteristics and weird suspension. It was made to go in a straight line, but everybody loved it. But then Gran Turismo came along, and it was like, oh, okay, so there's a lot more to cars than going fast 0 to 60. So it's just interesting how how game culture can kind of bleed over into car culture.
Yeah, man, now that you were talking about like cars from games, when I saw Fast and Furious the first time, it was the same with like the Mitsubishi Eclipse that Paul Walker was driving. That car was non-existent in Austria, Germany, or Middle Europe, because it's like, I was looking it up and was like, what the hell is a Mitsubishi Eclipse? We just had the other one, which was like the rally car, I think. Was it the Evolution or Evo? Mitsubishi Evo, I think.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, like the RX-7, and yeah, you said Skyline. I mean, I've never in my life seen a Skyline or heard about Nissan. We just had this ugly Nissan, like the small cars, you know, the Nissan Micra and stuff like, yeah, the gravel cars, like, yeah. So this was really the first touch point with like car culture, and it kind of opened up this whole world where like, kind of when you hit puberty as a teenager, like these films and games were like, what's happening to my body? Like, that's how it felt, actually.
Totally. I see Pete drop a comment that it's the Lancer. That's the car we're looking for. The Lancer Evo.
Yeah,
that's
the
exactly
Lancer.
right.
Oh my God,
thank you, Pete.
Such a brilliant car as well. And
yeah,
kind of an off-topic question by Best Finland Ball, but any other genres or games that you're playing or that we are playing? But you go first.
Okay, I'll go first. Yeah. Not right now. Like sim racing and making videos takes up so much of my time right now.
Yeah.
I wish I had more time to play, because I do have a PlayStation 4, and I think God of War is just incredible. I wish I had more time to put into it. I grew up playing a lot of role-playing games, like the Final Fantasy series, and so I got into The Witcher most recently, and I think that game is incredible. Yeah, so I wish I had more time, because I know there's so many amazing games out right now, but I just unfortunately don't have a lot of time. How about yourself?
It's the same here. I wish I could just, like some other people, sit in front of the computer playing games, streaming, and making a living out of that. But that's not how it works, unfortunately. So for me, it's like I actually come like from a pure like not only strategy, but I played like really a lot of like the Anno strategy game, Anno 1600 something. I can't even remember the first ones, where you like settle on islands and stuff. And then I played, I got into StarCraft, Diablo. So I was actually in my early teens really a Blizzard fanboy. Like Diablo, StarCraft, and World of Warcraft. I played the shit out of World of Warcraft, Jesus. And I think that was kind of a main game for like 15 years or something. And then Diablo 2, Diablo 3. I just, one of my coolest like gaming memories is I just remember like finishing 1 year of school and my parents going on vacation. So I was home alone for like 2 weeks, and it was exactly at that point the Diablo 2 expansion set was released. So I bought it at like 3 afternoon, and I was playing it non-stop until like 4 in the morning. that, you know, these times when your body can still survive that. If I try that today, I think I'm going to be like dead for like 48 hours or something. But my body could actually endure that. So I was playing until 4 in the morning and then just slept like 3 hours and then got back up again because the parents were coming home. And I think I just kept on playing for 3 days with like 4 hours of sleep or something. So those were like the days of my gaming addiction. And yeah, with like finishing school, going to work, like World of Warcraft was ever like omnipresent. And it was actually just shortly like before the world pandemic hit, like I think somewhere in 2019, I really lost interest and was kind of trying games like Path of Exile. So mostly like the ARPG games is my thing. And I even had a PlayStation 3, I think I had. I was playing like what was it? Need for Speed Shift 2. It was like the only racing game I had on the PlayStation, and then some beat 'em up games and stuff. But it didn't really click with me. I don't know. I don't think I'm a console guy. It didn't really ever click with me. I was having a PC, and was able to play everything that I wanted on the PC. So yeah, that's kind of my background from where I come in.
Awesome. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I leaned so strongly towards console for so long. Like it was just so easy for me, just so plug and play, right? Like everything just automatically works. But once you sort of see the potential of PC gaming, like of course the initial buy-in, especially right now with GPU prices being what they are, like it's hard to make the jump from console to PC without investing, you know, thousands of dollars, thousands of euro, whatever. But you sort of, once you get into it, it kind of I guess opens your eyes and you realize how much is possible, not just in the games that are available, but what you can do with those games. Like, I mean, we as sim racers look at it, and of course, you know, we have the R Factor 2s and the Automobilistas that are PC only, but not just that, you know, triple screens and VR. I know Gran Turismo has VR, but you know, the VR is just so much better on PC, and the wheel compatibility, pedal compatibility, like there's just so much more you can do with a PC. So I always recommend people go that way if they're able to, but it's just not a good time right now to be building a PC, I suppose.
Absolutely not. It started out with the Bitcoin craziness, and now it's like feels like GPUs are even they're like GPU is the rarest metal on earth. Like, what's a GPU? Can I invest in it? Is like a resource or something? It's crazy.
True.
But yeah, I mean, I just remember the coolest thing about the PlayStation is you just want to have some fun. You flick it on and it just works.
Exactly.
And I remember having a PC where I just wanted to throw it out of the window because it was just messing up on me, giving me blue screens. I still, until today, I don't know why the hell it was doing that. Nobody could figure it out. So I got so desperate that I just bought a new one. So but that's like, I think 15 years ago or something, and so much has changed since then. But I think for sure. Now that you mention it, I think a lot of people are kind of actually waking up who have been like console only, even in my community for now. Interestingly enough, I think I had like even 2 or 3 people now who were just playing ACC on console, and by seeing how much more cooler it is and how much more they can do on a PC, actually now got parts and are building their PC. So it's really cool to see more and more people coming into the PC gaming genre and doing their part into the boom of not being able to buying any GPU.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, but to be fair, on the console side as well, like, I mean, it's almost, I don't know what it's like over in Europe, but here in North America, you cannot buy a PlayStation 5 anywhere. Like, I check daily, and just nobody has stock of the PlayStation 5. I saw this clip somebody had posted of ACC playing on PlayStation 5. It was dark, it was in the rain, and they still sustained 60 FPS, which is hard for me to do with my, you know, high-end PC. So I was like, oh, I might be interested in this. But PlayStation 5s just are nowhere. So it's this strange time, like, where people can't get the PC they want. They also can't get the console they want. So hopefully it resolves soon.
It kind of is like this, I think, problem where they can't really produce as much as they want because half of the world is in lockdown, half is not, and so everything is like really coming together right now. Because if we look at, like, I think at like the PC gaming sector, it has been growing and growing and growing for the past 10-15 years, I think. and they were kind of able to sustain that growth. But now suddenly there is this boom, but the problem with like supply at the same time. So that's like really two things that don't get along so much. And releasing a console I mean, I get it why they did it, but they're just not able to satisfy their demands. It's just crazy. I mean, not everybody, but most of the world is sitting at home. So yeah, what else you want to do? You look for something to game, because you can only watch so much Netflix until you go crazy.
That's right. That's right. Speaking of which, I'm behind on Drive to Survive. I don't know
my
if you're
God.
did you watch it?
I'm at episode 9. We watched episode 9. We're keeping episode 10. We're trying to prolong it a little bit to enjoy it a bit longer, because you just started and it's, oh my God. I saw season 1, I think. I didn't really see season 1, to be honest. We got into it with season 2, I think. And it just... I was watching a lot of Formula 1 when I was more like a kid or a teenager, when like, Gerhard Berger and sorts like that were driving for Ferrari and stuff, and Damon Hill and Jacques Villeneuve and so on. And I remember Montoya coming in with BMW, being the first guy who didn't give a shit about who Michael Schumacher was and really giving him hell. So that was the glorious times for me. And then I kind of got out of it. And it has been only until now that I got into sim racing that I kind of rediscovered it. And what actually piqued my attention was when the American guys were taking over, and their plans now, which are unfortunately postponed to the next year, with like refurbishing the rules and the cars and everything with the concept. So I'm now trying to get back up to speed with Formula 1, and Drive to Survive has been an incredible help at this. I mean, the insights you get. I don't know which episode are you, so that we don't spoil you.
Oh, well, I mean, you don't. That's the good news. You don't have to worry about spoilers, because I already know what happened in the Formula 1 season in real life. But I think I'm only, I guess, an episode and a half into the current season.
So you haven't seen the Ferrari episode, right?
Have not seen the Ferrari episode.
Okay.
No.
I think to me this is one of the best episodes of the series, because how to put it into simple words, it just kind of shows what their challenge and their struggle really is. And it's a challenge and a struggle that another Italian brand shares in MotoGP. I don't know if you've been following like MotoGP. It's Ducati there, the other Italian motorbike manufacturer, which they also have like this stupid Mission Win Now sponsor on board. And they have the same struggle, which is basically their big bonus point is actually their weak spot, which is their emotion, their pride. That this big Italian pride, and this is just always in their way. And when you see the Ferrari episode of Drive to Survive, it's within the first 2 minutes it already clicks, where you see like, Jesus, I mean, guys, it's so obvious what issues they have, and but they just can't get over it, because it's implanted in their DNA. They are Italians and they just can't get over that.
Right. And it's interesting with them too, because I mean, they've had an amazing history in Formula 1, and so many champion level drivers have come through there. And then looking to last season, you had a 4-time champion in Sebastian Vettel, who you could certainly make the case that he's well past his prime, but still a very talented driver, obviously. And then Charles Leclerc, incredible driver, young driver, probably the best young driver, I would say, outside of Max Verstappen. And so that team really should have worked. If I'm not mistaken, also the team itself gets more financial bonuses than any other team in Formula 1. So everything on paper should work for Ferrari, and it's just interesting to see them struggle, because I'm trying to think if it was 2018 or 2019, but I remember watching, and it was Spa. It was the Belgian Grand Prix, and the race started, and if I'm not mistaken, Hamilton was on pole, and Vettel just flew by him up the Kemmel Straight. And it was just like, okay, well, Ferrari has the best car on the grid, obviously. Like, it's not even close. And that to me was like, okay, well, now we're in another Ferrari era. Like, the Mercedes era is coming to an end, but it just didn't play out. And it's just so interesting to see. And so, yeah, that's a good teaser for me. I'll have to watch the Ferrari episode. But also Ferrari coming into this season, and we're recording this on the 22nd of March, and so in 6 days we get to see
Yeah.
what they can do on track. But they have a very talented roster again this year. And preseason testing, I didn't follow it at all, but it didn't sound like it was disastrous for any team. So I mean, hopefully we'll see a better showing from Ferrari this season. But
Yeah, it looks
who knows?
really interesting. But the funny thing is that in MotoGP, Ducati, the Italian brand, kind of went through the same thing. They went from a really, really successful, strong brand in, I think, 2007, really on a decline that is basically holding up until today. They were 3 or 4 years ago so close to winning the championship, and they kind of exchanged their management and their engineers and everything. And they don't really talk about what's going on behind the scenes because their pride, emotions, the Italians, I mean. And one of the things the engineer said is it was horrible to work at the bike because every part had different screws. So can you imagine changing something on a motorbike which has so many small parts with countless of screws, and every part has screws that are completely different and needs different sizes and everything. And he was like, it was impossible to work and develop the bike or like react to the needs of the rider and the track when you just couldn't do it in time. So one of the first things was like streamlining these processes. And what you see now today is like I mean, me as someone just watching it on TV, absolutely having no clue what's going on in the background. So I'm just speculating, and that's probably one of the fun parts about that. You speculate about what's going on behind the scenes, is that they focus on the wrong things. Like in MotoGP, they allowed winglets on the bikes, on like the side fairing, so they have wings now for aerodynamic pressures.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And they just come up with crazy ideas and bigger wings and aerodynamics. And I'm thinking like, dude, your challenge for the past 3 or 4 years has been something completely different, and you're ignoring the fact because you think because you were like the inventor of the winglets, they were the first team really using those winglets, that you are now like, this is your own focus and you need to show everyone that, the bigger wings, the better and stuff like that. So, and I think I kind of see the same issue with Ferrari, that they like their pride forbids them to actually really admit what the hell is going on and what they're doing wrong. And they're just trying to find a way around this elephant in the room because that can't be. It can't be our engine. It can't be this because we are Ferrari. We are the best. We are Italian emozione. I think it's really interesting to see every Italian brand or racing team kind of having the same struggles. I would really love actually for Lamborghini to get into like, I don't know, Formula One or something, because in GT racing I think they're actually doing pretty well.
Oh, interesting.
So let's that would be kind of fun to see how they would do with an F1 team and a Lamborghini engine, but I think that probably will never happen, unfortunately.
Yeah. And, Formula One, like just about any sport you can name, teams have dominant periods and then they fall off. Like, I mean, if you go back to the 90s, it didn't seem like the, McLaren would ever be beat. And then early 2000s, it didn't seem like Ferrari would ever be beat. And now, of course, we're in the Mercedes era. So it's, I'm curious. Well, what do you think? Who do you think will be the next team to sort of step up and dominate? Because I mean, Mercedes isn't going to last forever. I think Lewis Hamilton has 1, maybe 2 years left in Formula One, and Toto Wolff will probably move on and take a position with the FIA. And curious, who do you think will be the next team to sort of have a run of dominance in Formula One?
It's really tricky. I see this season actually more like a filler season to kind of bridge the gap to the new rules at next year, which hopefully I think will really completely reshuffle the odds and like throw everything completely out of the order. But I really enjoy the new Alpine team, not only because I think they have the best livery in the field, but I think that the driver pairing and what I've seen so far from the team is really fascinating, and I'm actually really hoping for them that they can do a good job. But one thing that hurt me actually a lot was seeing Williams basically fall apart. I really enjoyed seeing Claire in the documentary on Netflix. She's such a cool, sympathetic person. She was so warm, so honest. So yeah, just seeing Williams being basically shoved out of the F1 family is like really hurt a lot actually, and I
Yeah.
was really rooting for them. I think they were just trying so hard. It just made probably some wrong decisions, were a bit unlucky, and if you would really like force me to decide a team now, I think I would go with Alpine. I really hope that it's the moment for a new team to emerge and, you know, to bring a fresh breeze in Formula One. Although maybe, I don't know, Aston Martin, Jesus, they look strong. The team looks strong. So, but I don't know what's like your feeling, or who do you think is more has the highest chances, but who would you actually wish to take over the torch?
Tricky I think one. Probably, honestly, wherever Max Verstappen ends up. I think he's just an incredible talent. I think, you know, you could certainly make the case that he makes some bad decisions and he's over aggressive at times, and you know, probably plays his cards too soon. But I think, you know, I still think he's probably 23, 24 years old, and Jesus, you know, he's got some maturing left to do. And once he sort of settles into his groove, and if he can get onto a competitive team with a, you know, front running car, which he is right now, granted, but you know, it's just Mercedes time. That's all there is to it. But I think if there was no Lewis Hamilton, and as you say, once the rules reshuffle next year or possibly the following year, I think the championship is probably going to follow Max Verstappen. I think he's just fantastically talented, and I think he really is that fast. So so that'll be very interesting. And I suspect Christian Horner is going to do everything he can to keep Max on that team, and probably have some supporting driver, you know, if I'm being honest, probably of little consequence. Like, I think the push will be for Max to be the guy at whatever team he ends up on, probably Red Bull. So that's kind of where I'm leaning. I think he's probably a future world driving champion.
Oh my God, I just realized I completely left Red Bull out of the equation, actually. That's a fair point. Yeah, it's if there's just one thing that Drive to Survive has shown me, is that if I ever, and it will never happen, but if I would ever have the chance to drive for a Formula One team, I think Red Bull would be the last. Because what they show in terms of like how they, like, I don't know, treat their drivers, maybe not Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen seems to be the untouchable, but like with Albon and with Gasly and how they treat these twos, I'm like, Jesus, that's just not. If you look to McLaren or like Renault, how they treat their drivers, you're like, wow, that's just, yeah, you would love to drive for them because you feel appreciated. And then you look to Red Bull and it's like, if you don't win, you get screwed. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, it must be really tough to sit in the car on the track, and I'm honestly pretty convinced that no driver is out there just, you know, scratching his nose or like being bored. They all go to their limits. And if the team says like, look, you need to push, and you're sitting in there like, Jesus, shit, the car's not going any faster. What do you want me to do? It's like, there's only so much you as a driver can do. And if they're just not providing you with a car that's like able to compete, I mean, what do they want you to do? Like, push the magic button and just whoosh?
Yeah, that's right. It's so hard because you don't know where, you don't know what is defining the success, whether it's the driver or the car. And you know, it tends to be a balance of both. But I just rewatched the Turkish Grand Prix from last year, which was the rainy one. It was the one where Lewis Hamilton clinched drivers championship number 7. Lance Stroll started on pole. Valtteri Bottas was way back in the field and had 6 spins over the course of that race. And it was interesting to see because it was one of the few races you can look at over the past let's say, well, at least 5 years, where the car seemed sort of secondary to the driver, very clearly secondary to the driver. Like, I mean, Lewis Hamilton just went out there and he ran consistent, just lap after lap. He was just pushing, you know, his tires beyond belief. And, you know, Lance Stroll, you know, did a great job with what he was given. You know, again, started on pole, but he just kind of fell back in the field after some pit stop woes. And yeah, it just really was interesting to see because so much was put on the driver. Could they keep it under control with a really wet track, and not to mention an exceptionally smooth track with water on it? So It was just a very interesting rewatch. I'm glad I still had it on my PVR, and it kind of gives you hope. Like you see, when you see a race like that, and then you look to the new regulations in 2022 or 2023, and it's just like, what could be if the cars were on more of an even plane, which drivers would emerge, and I think you saw it in the Turkish Grand Prix. I think you saw, the Lewis Hamilton win, and Max Verstappen had a strong finish. Charles Leclerc had a strong finish. So, it's just very interesting to see that race, and hopefully that's sort of a preview of what's to come with the new regs.
So we definitely need more wet races. That's what you're saying.
I think so. Yeah.
We need to flood the tracks.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
Come
cool.
on, Ray.
There was when was that? I think I think 2 or 3 years ago in MotoGP, because they're also racing in Dubai or Qatar. It was raining. It was the one day of the year where it was raining like hell. Right. And the racetrack there is not built for rain, so it has no real drainage or whatsoever. So because they don't really have drain, so they had to cancel the GP because of that. The track was just flooded, and they didn't know what to do with water. It's like, what is that? So fortunately, Formula One seems to have that better under control with their tracks. But anyway, I think that's enough talking about Formula One. We are all hyped for what's coming up. But I can't wait for the next T. I love the cars, so I'm really excited about what they are going to do next year with cars. For sure. And I really hope Netflix will be there to document it again. I hope they continue this. If they only would make stuff like that for like the GT World Challenge or like other racing series, it would be so cool. But who knows? Maybe it happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Coming back to sim racing. There's always this one question I like to ask is like, what is like the one memory like that really sticks out to you when it comes back to like everything you went through in sim racing, the games you played? Is there like really the one memory where you say like, those were the times where it was just glorious?
That's a very tough question. I don't think there's one moment really that sticks out. Interestingly, like I'm not a fast sim racer, and I'm not competitive. I did win my first iRacing race, like the first one I ever stepped into, but surprisingly, it didn't really affect me that much. Like I wouldn't put that anywhere near the top of my sim racing moments. It's hard to say. Most of mine, it's going to sound weird, but most of mine are just the interesting people that I meet. Like I think of sim racing not only as a hobby, but as a community. And it's been really interesting. Like occasionally myself and let's say Jimmy Broadbent will DM, and it's just interesting to see how he is viewing the world of sim racing. And you talk to some of the game developers. Like I've been fortunate enough to be pulled into the Kunos fold, and talk to them about their titles, and who else? Reza Studios with their games. And it's a weird answer to that question, but I think for me, it's the people I meet. And then a good friend of mine in the sim racing community is I don't want to vet him too much about his personal life, but he works in the computer hardware industry, and it's just very interesting to get his perspective, and sim racing is what brought us together. So it's the community, and the highlights are sort of the interesting people that I meet. I'm sorry, that's a terrible answer, but it's the honest answer.
I think it's actually a really, really good answer, because if it's just one thing I've taken with me since starting or getting into this community since last year, and believe me, I've seen communities like when you play World of Warcraft, or I think people who are playing League of Legends or Counter-Strike, they really know what toxic communities are. And coming from that, getting into the sim racing community, I was just like, I didn't expect everything, but not this. The amount of openness, of support, of like friendliness, of the warm, everybody was basically welcoming and helping and trying to get you up to speed and like support you. And I was just like, I was sitting there, like there was just this one evening where I was just sitting in front and was like, what is going on here? This is like, am I in a dream, or what's happening here? This is too good to be true. And it's like really the amount of different people and personalities I had the chance to meet and get to know, and you are obviously one of them. We wouldn't be sitting here if it wouldn't be for like the worldwide pandemic and stuff like that. So
Right.
I'm so thankful for that, and it's just
Yeah.
so great to meet so many people from so many different countries. I mean, I had people from South Africa joining my streams, from Denmark, from Sweden, from like you see, North America, Canada, United Kingdom, and it's just talking with all these sorts of people and getting together on track and enjoying some cool time together is like, really, I think it's a really good answer you just put out there. It's the community is what makes this sim racing experience so brilliant.
Right. And I think you saw an extreme example of that with, the struggles I went through recently with the Sim Dream controversy.
Yeah.
Like, it was just this overwhelming wall of support from around the world. Everybody well, not everybody, I won't be that egotistical, but so many people from every facet of sim racing just came together. There was, we were united in a cause to sort of make things right with something that was very evidently wrong in sim racing, and it was just an amazing show of support and positivity from the community.
So I think it's a good point that you're getting there. I think it might be the time to kind of dig into what has been happening there. It's just one thing that I just had on my mind is like, when I was like kind of starting the channel and got the idea for the podcast, and I was looking, I would honestly have never expected someone like Chris to say like, yeah, sure, let me be the first guy on your podcast, because compared to like what he's doing and what other channels and how big some other creators are, I'm like tiny. But I just it was so, I was just like so grateful for when he like said behind the scenes, like I was like, he was giving me a shout out at Christmas in one of his videos, and I jumped like 500 subscribers, I think.
Wow.
Which to this day, I'm like, I have to thank him like every day for that, because it was just so cool. And I said like, look, why did you do that? And he said like, because you're one of the creators where I can see the passion, that you are doing this because you enjoy it. You're not doing this for clicks or for anything. You just enjoy what you do, and it's your passion. And I appreciate that. And then he was like asking for like people to do collaborations, and I was like, I mean, I can give it a try. What's the worst thing that's going to happen is he says no. But he was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And he's like the guy who then said like, look, you might you will regret it afterwards because you can't stop me talking and blah blah blah. And it was just such a great time. And that's also a thing of the community, I think, is just everybody, as we will now dig into this, is just sticking together and helping each other out. There doesn't seem to be, I mean, if you go to the competitive level of like the very fast racers who are participating in championships and driving for the win, okay, it might be a little bit different, but still behind the scenes. And if you look at all the content creators, everyone is willing to step up for the other one and helping each other out. And that's incredible. I've never seen this in any other community before in my gaming career. And yeah, I mean, you think Fortnite users could ever do that? I think hell would freeze over. So yeah, I don't know, let's get into this. What I mean, it was, I think, a tremendous earthquake that got sent through the sim racing community. And I think one of the questions in my head, or the only thing I'm trying to understand, is that basically I mean, I don't know, do we want to name the company or not? Or
yeah, I think I said their name already, and I'm sure it's fine. We can call them SDD if you prefer.
SD,
but do you want the story from the start?
Yeah, because I think from what I've kind of heard, or my impression is that that's nothing new. They have been doing that for quite a while, right? So let's just open up book chapter 1, page 1 from your side, and feel free to get going.
Yeah, so from my perspective, like, so much of my channel has been mods over the years. Like, I've always been a supporter of Race Sim Studio, supporter of United Racing Design, virtual racing cars, companies like that. And these are people because you have a YouTube channel, how much, and a Twitch channel, how much work goes into what we do. Like, it's just an incredible amount of work for, let's be honest, quite a small payoff. And I've known that on the mod creation side, they go through the same thing. Like, just huge amounts of work go into creating these mods that we then download for free or for $5 or whatever it is. So I've always kind of tried to support the ones who produce excellent mods over the years, and it's been a focus of my channel. And I've gotten to know some of these people behind the scenes. Sometimes we email and discuss what projects they're working on, and how I can support them with new videos and things like that. And you didn't have to ask very hard to get their opinions on SDD. Like, they were having, I shouldn't say they, some people, let's say, were having their work stolen by SDD, and it was for sale on their website. And if anyone spoke up, then the result was a copyright strike. And so it had been brewing behind the scenes. And I consider some of these mod creators to be friends of mine. And it had been brewing behind the scenes. And it was kind of like this unspoken thing where SDD was, borrowing materials, shall we say, borrowing assets to sell with their mods. And nobody was really doing anything about it. And rightfully so. Nobody wanted those copyright strikes. Nobody wanted the drama that would come with trying to speak out against these people. And then I guess it was March 5th or 6th, I can't remember. I got an email from, again, one of these mod creator friends, and said, look, I'm trying my best here, Mike, but these guys are taking my work and selling it as their own. I'm considering pulling all my mods. And I thought that was terrible. Like, this person, and I'll leave them unnamed, but they make some incredible work and they release it for free. And so I said, look, I'll see what I can do. So the next day I released the now infamous video talking about, how I don't think you should support this group. It's been a known thing that they steal work and blah, blah, blah. And the video was unusually popular for me. I think it got 10,000 views in the first day, which,
wow.
I mean, it's not exactly Jimmy Broadbent or Super GT numbers, but for me, that was very big. And the comments were all like, yeah, we know, thanks for speaking out, and thank you, blah, blah, blah. And I got emails from other mod creators saying, thank you for making this video. I've been fighting with these guys for a long time. And then woke up, and then that was day one. That was the Friday. So everything was positive. And I was talking to my wife that night, and I told her about it. And I said, my video is doing really well. Here's what I was talking about. And I said, I'm probably going to get a copyright strike for this. I think this won't go away quietly, but it's been a good day regardless for my channel. So I woke up on the Saturday morning, and there was 2 copyright strikes on my channel. And yeah, and it's not a good thing. So for those not familiar, the way YouTube does copyright strikes is you get 2 as a warning, and then on the 3rd strike, you're just permanently gone. You don't have access to any of your videos. You can no longer produce content with that email address. And so 2 strikes was like, okay, yikes, this is not good. And I started digging into it. And what they had done was each copyright strike was comprised of 4 or 5 videos each, and they almost seemed at random. Like, there's some of the videos were years old, some of them were more recent, and they were claiming that the material, or excuse me, the visuals or the sounds in these videos belong to them. Which of course was nonsense, because to my knowledge, they do not make content for R Factor 2, and a lot of the videos were R Factor 2 videos, Automobilista 2. So there was no sense to it. There was no rhyme or reason to it. And that's when I went on YouTube, and I posted a message, something to the effect of, I'm going to lay low until this goes away. I'm appealing it, but if not, it'll go away in 3 months. So in my mind, I was thinking, okay, I'll just not make content for 3 months, not, make any noise in the sim racing community, just kind of ride things out and let it go away.
Yeah.
And pardon me. So it's, let's see, where are we at? Saturday. And so there was a lot of outpouring. People started emailing me. People started sending me messages on Twitter. Jimmy Broadbent really took up the cause, and Random Call Sign also did an amazing job of spreading the word, and Stephen Bailey as well. And there's just a lot of support saying these copyright claims are nonsense, blah blah blah. And so I was in a bad mental space, I should say, and I was thinking I was going to lose my channel. And so I just spent the weekend just kind of focused on me. After I woke up to those copyright strikes and seeing all the messages on Twitter, and I started responding to the messages, but at the same time, I was just kind of resigned to keeping a low profile for a while. Spent the weekend, going for walks and spending time on myself, just enjoying life kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then woke up Monday morning to the third copyright strike. And that was where things really had taken a turn. And I think I mentioned this in my comeback video, but it felt, I don't know if malicious is the right word, but it just felt cruel. Like the two strikes, I understand they had to push back somehow. I understood that, but 2 days later to issue the third copyright strike and take away my channel, to me that was too far. So thankfully, the saving grace on the technical side of things was that I had appealed the first two copyright strikes. So if you get a third strike while you have an open appeal, then you get to keep your channel for up to 7 days while they review the appeal. So thank goodness I didn't, wait too long on appealing. But at the third strike, that's when something kind of just kind of snapped in my mind, and I thought, okay, this is real. Like, I'm going to lose this channel. There's so many people that I owe thanks to, and so many people that I wish I could talk to, and I can't do that anymore because I'm losing my platform for communicating with them. So it really bummed me out. Like, I knew I was letting a lot of people down there. I had sim racing hardware in my garage that I was supposed to review, and the person who sent it to me worked really hard to get it to me because it had to cross a border. And I was like, man, I can't even do that hardware review. And there was other mods that I was wanting to look at that, hoping to share with people. And I didn't get a chance to do that. So I was really bummed. And so I posted on my YouTube channel something to the effect of, that's it, guys. It looks like this is the end. Yeah. So there was, a lot of emotion behind that. I just felt terrible to lose my channel. Not so much as a means of income. YouTube does pay me a little bit each month, but it's not a lot, and I still have a 9-to-5 job. So it wasn't the financial hit I was worried about. It was the community that sort of surrounds my channel that I would really miss if it went away. So it was really just I was in a bad spot on Monday, and posted that message on YouTube, and then people really started retweeting hard on Twitter, taking up the cause and doing what they can. That's when you started seeing videos about we stand with Mike, I stand with SimRacing604, blah blah blah. And it really just what would you say, took shape as kind of a movement almost. The resistance. What's that? Sorry?
The resistance.
The resistance, exactly. And then finally, I think it was one of Jimmy Broadbent's tweets. And of course, Jimmy Broadbent just has such a massive reach. And it was one of his tweets that YouTube actually responded to directly and said, we're looking at it. And then they sent me a DM and said, we're aware of the issue. We're taking a look. And that was kind of the beginning of the end of the saga. Once they were aware of it, I knew that I was probably going to be saved, because there was no validity to the claims. Like, you could certainly make the case that I my opinions I should have prefaced with allegedly when I spoke about SDD, or maybe I should have had a runner at the beginning of that video, or a title block that said, these are my opinions and my opinions alone. So probably I, deserve a lot of the blame for the initial sort of hype surrounding the issue. But it got taken too far. But luckily, Jimmy, really got word out, and YouTube responded, and they were able to roll back the false strikes. So all within a week, it went from, what I thought would be just sort of a benign opinion video to almost losing my channel, and then now getting it back. And so many people I owe thanks to. It's unbelievable. we were talking about community a few minutes ago, and it really just did feel like a whole community was behind me. So, and for their part, SDD did email me and said, that this was not their intent. Things got out of hand, and the people responsible for it have been removed, and we're moving forward. We have different policies in place to not use materials from other mod creators. And so I think overall it was just an incredibly positive outcome for what it could have been, and nobody to thank but the community at large. Like, everybody stepped up, everybody had a hand in it, and just so thankful things worked out the way they did.
This is amazing. It's just so...
Yeah.
The story has so many aspects that I'm just... my mind is basically just blown when... the point where you said, of course, they had to push back. And I'm like thinking, dude, that's a company that's doing illegal shit for years. And nobody's able to do anything against it. So there absolutely no right to push back, because it would be like saying like, wow, you can't do anything about the mafia. I mean, they're just there. So you have to live with that. I mean,
right.
it's crazy. And I have been looking or trying to look a bit into like the history, and it was just like, it's such a shame that it's so unfortunate that in today's times you still can't really, I mean, you create something and it gets stolen from you and they benefit from it, and you can't do anything about it, because I mean, what would you do? Let's say you're a teenager, you do a cool mod and you're giving it up for download, and then suddenly a company takes it and sells it. What do you want to do? Get a lawyer?
Yeah.
How do you afford it? Or write to YouTube and you see what happens? Because YouTube is so massive that I think even with employing 500,000 people, which they probably have, they couldn't get down to all of the problems and issues in support requests. So it's just it's crazy. This whole thing. I mean, I'm lost for words. It's just...
I know there's so much to process, and again, I'm thankful that I'm not dependent on the income. Like, I mean, I still have my 9-to-5 job, and thankfully that covers my bills. But I was grateful that it was me in this case, because if you had somebody like, let's say it was Jimmy Broadbent, I mean, he does have some pro race contract now, but as of say 6 months ago, I believe YouTube was his primary source of income, and I don't know his financials exactly, but there's a lot of people who do YouTube full time, and if DMCA, if copyright claims can be used as weapons like this, like, those people could have their sole source of income taken away, and that's really scary. Like, I understand it from YouTube's perspective. Like, I understand why they do. Well, first of all, it's federal law in the US that they're enforcing in terms of copyright. So I understand why it's like a pull the content and allow the content creator to appeal later. I understand why it's like that, because I think the inverse would be chaos as well. If anybody could just, post whatever they want, and then if it was on the owner to appeal and say, no, that belongs to me, here's the evidence, it would be chaos. Everybody would be stealing everything from everyone. So I get why their policies are in place, but as I say, it's still pretty scary that somebody could have their sole source of income taken away. So I'm just thankful, as I say, that it was me. And if things had not worked out positively, if the channel had to shut down, my life would go on. I wouldn't lose my house. I wouldn't lose my car or anything like that. I would lose the community, which I'd be bummed about, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. But better for it to happen to me than somebody who solely depends on YouTube income. So thankful for that.
The time and the passion you put in is just, it would have been all for nothing. So I absolutely understand what you must have been going through. And when you said, the thing about income, if we watch it, like, there have been stories already about famous, like, or not famous, but big Twitch streamers, for example, where just they do one thing and then suddenly just Twitch like bans them or cancels their contract, and your whole income is basically gone from one day to the other. It's like the power these institutions already have, and it feels like it's not regulated from like a legal perspective. Like, there should be some kind of safety net or law saying, look, you can't just shut someone down who is basically living his, or who has this as his job. It would be the same, like, I mean, here in Austria we have like really good laws when you're employed. It would be the same like an employer saying like, you're fired and that's it. There is no safety net and no 3-month notice or whatever. So like,
Right.
you're fired from now on, you're basically done.
Yeah.
And you can compare it to like that. So I think one of the issues might also be that governments, and from the legal perspective, they are not up to speed, because the internet is just, it's growing at light speed. So it just adds to this challenge, I guess. It's time for governments like European Union, United States, whatsoever, to like really get up to speed there. The companies are going to outgrow them and doing whatever they want, and people are, I mean, it's cool tools. I mean, where would we be without Google, without YouTube, without Facebook? So
Yeah.
times are changing. But I got an interesting question in between. It's like, why is your channel named SimRacing604?
There's Well, okay, I'll make it into a story. So it actually refers to the telephone area code where I live.
Seriously?
Yeah. So, but okay. So the reason I don't think it's that interesting of a story, but I'll tell it just the same. So one of the people who really influenced me early on was Ferrari Man 601, and he's a fellow content creator, just fantastic, brilliant guy. I really enjoy his stuff and have for many years. And so he was Ferrari Man 601. So I was watching a lot of his videos and just took a cue from that. I was like, okay, I looked up the 601 telephone area code, and it was in the US. And so I figured, okay, that's what he's done. He's, localized his channel, trying to appeal to a local audience, perhaps. And I will do the same thing. And so that's all it was. It was trying to copy him. And if you look back at my early videos, like in the first 2 years or so, the mod reviews I did were like a carbon copy of Ferrari Man 601 style. Like I just took everything from this guy. But anyway, we're friends now, so it's all cool. But so that's all it was just my telephone area code. But interestingly, like I guess about a year ago, I was like, you know what, this thing's kind of taking off. I think I was, past 20,000 subscribers at that point. I was like, okay, it's time for a rebrand. It's time to call myself something more, tangible, like, the Sim Racing guy or Mike Sim Racing or something like that. But then I got sent this incredible logo. I don't know if you've seen my logo lately, but that was just a friend of my channel reaching out. He's a graphic artist, and he made this brilliant logo for me. So I just can't walk away from that. Like, I think he did just such a great job with this logo that that's the reason why I'm hanging on to the 604. So it's one of those things, like when I started the channel, I just needed a name for it. So I copied Ferrari Man 601 to an extent, and I never thought any more than about 10 people would ever see my videos. Right? Like you don't have the foresight to think, okay, millions of people are going to watch my videos. No, you don't think that. So you just gonna put a name on it, and next thing you know, it's your brand. So
now you have to live with that for the rest of your life.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah. I want to know about your channel name, though. I'm interested in your.
Oh my god! Yeah,
is it oh my god story? Okay,
nah,
I gotta hear it now.
I think it kind of is a story, but if I'm honest, I don't really remember how the hell I came up with that name. I just remember that I mean, I have to go further back. It's like I kind of remember when all that streaming and gaming shit started to like really go off, and I had a few streamers I was watching, and I was always like, I'm into gaming, and I love to be the funny guy, or or at least I believe I'm the funny and entertaining guy. Sometimes people tell me, no, you're not, but okay. So it's like I always wanted to do that and give it a try, and it took, I think the first time I gave it a try was like 4 or 5 years ago. And I had the completely wrong approach. I was like on Twitch, I was playing a gaming niche from a game that was like a Minecraft clone called Terraria, and it wasn't really, I wasn't really enjoying it. I wasn't really into it. And that was my first try, and it actually failed. But I needed a name for my channel. And I was like, I was spending so many days coming up with a name and just putting stupid things together in my head. Like, what are cool words, like something with flash, something with blitz, or something with this and something with that. And then I was starting to give these words a spin. So one of the names I remember on my list was like the the German word for flash is like Blitz, which is like sounds like Blitzkrieg, but it's actually nothing to do with that. But it's like, and then I combined it with different other like animal names, and one of the things I came up with was like Blitzerino or something like that. So it's like I gave those names really stupid twists, and now it's on the internet and everybody will know it forever. Shit. So I kind of then, I don't know how, but it was like Boon is actually noob the other way around. And when you come from like World of Warcraft and Diablo, everyone calls you a noob when you're not performing. Oh, you're such a noob and you're stupid and you're a noob. And the funny twist to noob was Boon. So sometimes people are calling you Boon. And I was like always, I know I will never be a pro gamer. I'm not really that good in any game. I'm like average or above average, but I'll never be a pro. So I'm a noob. And I thought like, okay, let's just take noob and then spin it with Boon and just give it a twist. And I think I had like 20 variations of Boon something something. And one of the coolest one was actually, I think I had Boonatix, like fantastic, or like Boonalicious and something like that. So I was really going all out on that one. And then someday just popped like Boonatix, and like, that sounds kind of cool. And then I was just like, okay, let's just do it. And since then, it's sticking with me now, and since I'm doing sim racing now, actually like the past few days I was like, you're such a moron, because Boonatix has nothing to do with sim racing, and nobody will ever know that you're a sim racing community content creator, because what the hell is Boonatix even mean? So but I understand your struggle of like the rebranding, like what can you do with sim racing? It's like, you're not a SimRace girl, and that name's already taken. SimRace boy sounds stupid, and I'm sure someone else is doing it. So I basically have this brand name now I need to live with for the rest of my, however short the career is going to be. But I think if it ever happens or comes down to me never sim racing again, I can at least somehow use it for something else.
Right. That's true. But I mean, we create the associations, right? Like, if you didn't know Jimmy Broadbent was a sim racer, you wouldn't know what his channel's about. Same with Chris Hay. And then Actual Vision, that's a strange name, but we know his work from sim racing. So we just create the associations. So maybe we shouldn't think too much about our names, but
definitely. I mean, it's just now I like totally lost what I wanted to say. Brilliant. Well, maybe it comes back at a later point.
Okay, I have a question for you though. While you think of that, I had the idea of doing a Assetto Corsa Competizione starter guide, and then I started writing it, and lo and behold, I found your fantastic starter guide. And just curious, so you're somewhat new to the world of sim racing. What really appeals to you about ACC?
That's actually a funny story. I want a short or the longer version?
Go long if you want. We got time.
So I don't know why we got on that topic, but it was shortly before the pandemic last year that actually my girlfriend, I think, was kind of looking to get like a steering wheel. We were both playing World of Warcraft and stopped playing it and kind of looking into a substitute. Because, I mean, you can go outside and stuff, but that's only interesting for so long, so you need something to game. So, and I really don't know why Steam did that, but at that point it suggested me a game that is pretty popular right now, and it was ACC. And I saw the first picture on Steam and I was like, holy crap, this looks brilliant. And it honestly were the graphics that got me interested in sim racing at the game, actually, which is absolutely bloody hilarious. And I kind of put the game into my wish list and thought like, that might be cool to try out with like either, because I remembered playing Grand Prix 2 with like the keyboards and Need for Speed Shift with the gamepad. And I thought like, maybe that's time for something new and refreshing, and to try out that game. And then my girlfriend just got the wacky idea of like, let's just look for a steering wheel. And she actually got she found a guy selling something on like, which is like, if you want to compare it like to Craigslist in America, like selling a used sim racing rig with a seat. And then we ordered the G29, which was my first steering wheel, on Amazon, and we downloaded which was the free version. I think Race Room is kind of like pretty easy and free to get started in with like a track in the car. So that was actually my absolutely first touch point then with real sim racing, is having the G29 on my desk with like the used sim rig and the seat on my G29. And I remember the first time I was going out of the pits, the throttle, the steering, and I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into there? I felt like the first human being behind the steering wheel. And as soon as I discovered how cool it actually is, I think Assetto Corsa was even on offer. It was quite a lot on offer actually in the past year. And I just bought it for like $30 or something. And it was even including with the Intercontinental GT DLC, I think. And I just bought it. And the first time I started the game and saw the graphics, that was basically the point where I was hooked. So that was me getting into ACC, and that was even before I discovered how absolutely frustrating sim racing can be.
Yeah. Incredibly frustrating, but incredibly rewarding when it all does go right. So
Absolutely.
have you grown outside of GT3 and GT4 cars then? Like, do you race any like open wheelers?
Nope. I think for me it's like the same for you. I have kind of a job which is on hold right now because our company is on lockdown and closed. But ACC and the channel and the community takes up so much time that I kind of just focus my efforts on it right now, because I actually want to improve and go a bit faster. But I honestly had the urge in the past 2 or 3 weeks where I thought I really would love to try something else. And I think seeing how much you can do in Assetto Corsa, and maybe like I think I would really love to try iRacing, but the costs are really scaring me off. If I just want to like really get into some of the stuff and some tracks and some cars and invest like really money and then even pay a subscription, I'm like, I don't know, I'm probably better to just go with Assetto Corsa. So right at the moment I'm pretty much all over my head into ACC with everything that's going on there. Unfortunately, they have been keeping it updated, and I'm actually hoping they expand on the game, because we have no roadmap now that the British GT is here. So I really hope they continue doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and this ties in. I see a question in chat. Derasi asked, "What are you looking forward to in the sim racing world?" And I think that ties in nicely with the lack of a roadmap in ACC, because there's speculation, or I think it was actually a public release that Formula One said they were open to a more simulation oriented racing game, which. I mean, you would have to think that Kunos would be the front runners for that. Like, I can't imagine any other development team really having the chops to pull that off. So that would be exciting. Kunos does work with myself and a number of other channels to sort of promote their upcoming releases, but there's no insight. I don't know anything about what their future is, but it has gone sort of quiet. I know they're working on bug fixes and hot fixes for ACC, but in terms of them having no roadmap of ACC and no teases of Assetto Corsa 2 or anything like that, it kind of makes me wonder whether they might be working on something with Formula One. And I think that would just be incredible. I really do, because I like the F1 series from Codemasters. I think they do a great job with it overall. Sim racers tend to say, the force feedback isn't great and blah, blah, blah. But I think overall they do a nice job with it. But if you took sort of that base and added more simulation-like driving style and force feedback, I think that would be absolutely incredible. So I'm kind of hoping that is where things land with Kunos, at least. So
it would be cool. Yeah, I mean, they are, as far as we know, a pretty small team. I think around about 25 to 30 people. So, I mean, there was this interview going public from, like, I think the founder or someone, I can't remember the name now, where he was like telling them how big of a boost it actually was, the pandemic with lockdown and they growing so much. And actually now, I think he actually said that they are working on the next game already, part of the team, but he didn't really confirm if it was like an Assetto Corsa 2 or if it's going into a completely other direction. But he was pretty secretive, understandably. But I would also, on the one hand, I'm longing for more GT content. I would love to get like the GT or Asian Le Mans GT, Super GT, something like that. There's so many more because I just love the cars. The cars look awesome.
Yeah.
And I think by now we found out that I'm really a visual guy. If something looks cool, I have to have it. So, but I can totally see them do something with Formula One. I think maybe one of the challenges, what we heard is like really, teams being very secretive and not sharing all the information. I can only imagine what an incredible struggle that might be with Formula One, where like every team is even more secretive with their data and all this stuff. But I mean, imagine a fully fledged Formula One simulation with, I mean, wow, just thinking about it, it must be incredible.
Yeah, totally. And I guess what you would start to see then is, well, maybe not. I was going to say you might see some of the Kunos team hanging out in the paddock area trying to collect data, but who knows? They would probably do that, discreetly behind the scenes. But,
undercover,
sorry?
Them undercover like Man in Black, with sunglasses and
fake mustache.
Italian mafia.
I just want to say a quick hello to Norman. I see Norman Robinson in chat there. Hello,
from
Norman.
The Bermuda Islands, nice.
Yeah.
Spain.
Jumping back to the question about what we're looking forward to. So yeah, that would be amazing to see an open wheel or Formula One sim from Kunos. I think would be incredible. I'm also interested to see, because we've had, and maybe you would know the name, but I think there's a company, I think they might just be called Motorsport Games or something like that. And they just swooped in, they bought Studio 397.
Something like that, yeah.
Kind of a surprise. So I'd be curious to see what direction that goes, because it seems like, R Factor 2, a lot of us love it. It's a hardcore racing sim, but they're still trying to sort of fit new-ish cars and modern tracks onto a base that's 7-8 years old. So I'm curious if they'll start to turn a corner from that and just say, okay, that's it for R Factor 2, we're moving on to the next one. Because I think if you took like the wheel, or excuse me, the tire physics and the force feedback from R Factor 2 and applied it to a more modern gaming engine, I think it would just be amazing. So yeah, lots to look forward to, that's for sure.
I mean, the feeling you kind of get is like the sim racing world has been in some kind of, not hibernation, but it was kind of like, just going with the flow, like just, we are here and everything's nice and we got a few people gaming, and then suddenly, boom, lockdown, everybody wants to sim race. Suddenly we are on TV, esports, leagues, tournaments. What the hell is going on right now? Fanatec, GT World Challenge, British GT. We just had the first race with real drivers, and so it exploded, and you kind of have that feeling that absolutely no one was prepared for that, and they are kind of like trying. I think behind the scenes right now, they're kind of like, everyone is kind of scrambling what they can get their hands on to try and make the next sim racing like the next big hit in sim racing. So I really actually I'm pretty positive and hope that let's hope within this year we get a big announcement. I'm pretty sure something big's on the horizon. We just don't know it yet.
Yeah. And one thing I hope that ACC sparks in sim racing is a focus on one racing series per title. Because it works so well in ACC. They just go to every last detail, and the cars look perfect, the tracks look perfect, and then you get a game like a Project Cars 2 or something like that, which tries to cover so many racing series and so many tracks from all around the world that you end up, they omit details, and it's not a perfect replication of them. But I hope ACC kind of starts a trend and we get more racing sims. Like obviously IndyCar is desperate for its own racing sim. And a lot of people want BTCC as a racing sim. Le Mans, imagine that. Like of course things are changing with the Le Mans prototypes and things like that. But it would be interesting to see a dedicated sim for that as well. So I hope that kind of sparks a trend, and developers realize that quality over quantity really matters. So we'll see what happens with it.
Absolutely. I mean, I tried really hard to like Project Cars 3. I've never played any part before, and I was like, okay, ACC is so deep and such a hardcore simulation that it might be good to have something else to relax in. And I really tried for 2 days. And I just really regret spending the €80 for like the full package right now, because I've never touched it since. It's just...
Oh, no.
In terms of like the graphics and the cars, it's cool, but... it just felt so wrong when you're used to ACC and the feedback you get and how everything feels. I was sitting in a car and I felt literally too stupid to drive. And then it just, I think one of my viewers in the chat was like, try it with gamepad. And it's like literally it's been designed for gamepads.
Right.
Instantly notice it. It's the same when you like play Wreckfest. Yes, it's a gamepad game, and that was just like, so I was really disappointed by that. And it's just like, it just might be, okay, now maybe I just moved up and away from like the arcade racing genre, and the times of Need for Speed are over. But I'll be honest, if they ever bring a Need for Speed Underground 3, no matter how it is, I think I'll just play the crap out of it.
Sure. Yeah.
Even the soundtrack, until today, I listened to this stupid soundtrack from Need for Speed Underground 1 and 2. From time to time, at least. It's just a certain nostalgic feeling that gives you goosebumps when you get that intro song.
Was that where, is it Riders on the Storm?
Yeah, one was Riders of the Storm. Yeah.
I remember that one.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Everybody knows that song.
Yeah, exactly. Bloodwolf asked if GTR3 will ever be made. I think yes. It didn't look so good about a year ago, because we would just kind of get one screenshot every 6 months or so. But yes, Bloodwolf, I think it will be made. Apparently they have a team together. It's not Sector 3. It's not the same team that's working on Race Room. A lot of us thought the focus of the Sector 3 team would be to move from Race Room to GTR3. That's not the case. Apparently they have their own team, which is, if I'm not mistaken, somehow affiliated with Simbin. I'm not sure exactly what's going on behind the scenes, but it sounds like things are falling into place for GTR3. So I would expect, it's pure speculation on my part, but I would expect to hear something probably this calendar year about the release.
Yeah, I think pretty much there are a lot of moving parts right now in this genre, with everyone trying to like really take what they can get. But I'm really looking forward. I really hope Kunos will announce something, and I'm actually hoping that with the amount of revenue they generated throughout the year, they will be able to maybe hire a few more Italian programmers or whoever they can get to kind of expand and make something cool happen. But let's move to something more generic. It's still sim racing, as Peter, who is using his wife's account, Mr. Hawthorne Cottagecraft, so you can call him Peter if you want. He's asking about, like, what's your sim setup?
My setup, I am using a Next Level Racing GT track cockpit. Next Level Racing has been a partner of my channel for, I guess, a couple of years now, and they sent me this really nice cockpit to race with.
Cool.
And on that, I have my AccuForce direct drive wheel. I love it. I bought it in 2017, late 2017. So 3.5 years with it, zero issues. I love having direct drive. My pedals are Husinkwelt Sprint pedals, which are very nice, very expensive to get it across an ocean, of course. I think I spent about 1,500 Canadian, which is, I guess, in euro, that would be 1,000 or 1,100 euro, like very, very expensive, but I love them. Yeah. And then my gear shifter, I am using the Thrustmaster TH8A, but that is actually soon to be replaced. I ordered, I don't know if you're familiar at all with SHH shifters, but it's a private company that makes custom shifters. And so I ordered one a couple of months ago, so I should have it soon, I hope. So
custom made parts are the coolest ones.
Yes.
I just discovered this steering wheel company, and now I forgot the name. Jesus, they are making such crazy realistic with display and lights and buttons and everything. And of course, every wheel costs like $5,000. But I mean, like that's sim racing. Come on.
Yeah, I know we spend too much. Yeah,
Yeah, but
and I also have a custom button box which I love. It's from a
cool.
company called SimRacing4U, and they're like the only inexpensive company that I've found in sim racing that makes really great products. And so, yeah, I have a cool button box that I map in ACC, so that way I can have my traction control 1, traction control 2, ABS, and fuel map and all that.
I need to look into this. I'm still trying to find like a reasonably priced button box, but that sounds interesting.
Yeah, look at SimRacing4U.
Okay.
Yeah, they do great work, and the owner Ariel is a great guy. He's awesome to deal with. So yeah, should look into that.
Norman is asking about the progress of a motion-enabled sim racing rig or cockpit.
Maybe.
If you find a sponsor, why not?
Yeah. I can't talk about it, but good things are coming.
Next question, guys. Next question. I mean, if you talk about this, you definitely know Boosted Media.
Yeah.
The setup is like, I would like give, not my foot, but I would give something to be able to sit in that and drive it.
I know. He says amazing. He posted a video yesterday, and I'm sorry to cut you off there. He posted a video yesterday about his wife driving, and the title of the video was "My Wife Drives My $100,000 sim racing setup." What?
And I was like, what? What? Yeah. I mean, when he spends $100K on a sim rig, what car does he drive?
yeah, exactly. I mean, honestly, good for him. He's doing great, and he makes amazing content. And I'm not faulting him for spending that. That's great. But it's just amazing that anyone could spend as much as a low end performance car to have a sim racing setup. But his like triple 65-inch 4K screens.
I would get a sunburn sitting in there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, when you watch his videos now, it looks like you're actually sat in the cockpit of a car. Like he's gone that far with his triple setups. And,
it's amazing.
Absolutely incredible. So good for him. I'm forever jealous of that setup.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I would have a room available, I would definitely do the same thing, but unfortunately I don't, so I have to like make do with the rig and the screen. But you never know what lies ahead in the future. But it's just so fascinating because it shows you the different types of people who are into sim racing. You have like the people who are like the pro racers who do it for the money, for the fame, and because they want to be the fastest. And then you have like guys like us who are not the quickest and do it for the fun of it and because of the community. And then you have, I think I would count Boosted Media into this, is actually the people who do it for the immersion, for the experience, to just get as close to the realistic experience. And it's just so crazy that within actually one niche, you have so many different aspects you can enjoy sim racing.
Yeah. And I think we chose the correct path if you're looking to make any money, because if you're competitive, if you're in esports, I mean, the guys who win races, I think they make quite good money. But let's say you were in the 1% of 1% of the top sim racers in the world, and you came in 10th in a sim racing contest. Like, I don't think there's much money in that. Like, it must be tough, like, because these guys must dedicate just unbelievable amounts of time and effort into getting as good as they are. The times they post are just inconceivable. Like, I don't know how anybody is that fast. And then again, if you are number 10 or number 20 in the field in an esports contest, I can't imagine there's very good money. So it must be tough for those guys. But you're right. There's definitely sort of two schools of thought on hardware, because the guys who are fast oftentimes will be using a G27 or something like that they've owned for 10 years, and they're just hunched over a standard computer desk with a little 24-inch monitor, and they're just setting times that are 5 seconds faster than anything I could ever hope to accomplish. And then you got guys like me who've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on their setup, and I can't even come close to matching their lap times. So it's interesting whether you go for immersion or speed.
Absolutely. And the point that comes in is that I always like to kind of theorize about it, because coming from like other gaming types of games where, like, you know, World of Warcraft, it's all about optimizing the damage per second or the healing per second or whatever. So where you kind of have this approach of not abusing but exploiting the game mechanics to like really the limit, because if we are honest, and I know nobody likes to hear that, but racing simulations are basically computer games. So they are bound to like a rule set, a type of programming. And what you actually see, and I think what you also really saw very well in yesterday's first British GT Esport race, is the huge gap between a real race driver sitting in a simulation and then a gamer, a fully fledged gamer who can exploit, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but who can exploit the limits of the game's programming to like really, let's say 99%. And that is the big difference between guys like that and us. Is we basically have no clue what's going on in terms of like the game mechanics or programming. It's really hard to explain it, but we are in it for like the joy and for the immersion and community, and they can really use the game mechanics, the in-game physics, the programming. They actually, it's like Neo in the Matrix, the chosen one. You can see what's going on, and they can see, they can feel, and they know how to push it to the absolute limit. And I think that's the biggest difference there, is that you can do that with a G27, with a half-broken steering wheel, or even if you're like really an alien with a gamepad. You just need to like find that approach on how to use the game mechanics to your advantage. And I think for sure it's not that easy in racing simulation, but it's still kind of similar to other games where you really have to like time your actions or your like the way you react or what to expect, what's going to happen in the game, and all the theory. I mean, if we look at like games like World of Warcraft, and pretty sure other games out there where the theory crafting behind it is its own science, basically, where people have all the formulas and numbers and their own equations and calculate every moment and have their combat logs and everything. So coming from that, for me, it's not so much a surprise to see people on actually worse equipment and gear being that fast.
Yeah, and it's interesting you talk about sort of exploits and understanding the code. And I'll just say a quick hello to Billy Strange Racing in chat, one of my favorite channels. That's awesome. Thanks for joining us, Billy.
Hey, Billy.
But yeah, you talk about exploits, and there is that, like people who just understand the code better. I don't know if you're aware of Austin Ogonoski, but he's a sim racing, I guess you would say, a pundit. He's shared his opinions over many years in sim racing, and he's highly intelligent and really knows race cars really well. And if you watch his videos, he'll talk about, the things that you can do to sort of maximize what you get out of a vehicle in a given sim. And he'll talk about, how NASCARs are more sensitive. And I'm just making this up. I'm probably going to get the facts wrong, but he'll say, NASCAR doesn't allow you to adjust sway bar, but Assetto Corsa does. Therefore, this is inaccurate. And so if you had that level of knowledge, and try to apply that to a racing sim, it would go a long way. And you do see that sometimes. You'll hear about these aliens discovering that if you use, say, negative ride height in a given car in iRacing or something like that, that it makes you faster. And of course, that's unrealistic. Like, what is negative ride height? So I guess these people just through trial and error just sort of discover these sort of quirks about a given sim, and it helps them exploit. So there was a thing like that, I think, in ACC, which Aris talked about like a few months ago, after they fixed it, that some of the pro racers were over pressurizing their tires to like nearly 29 psi because it gave them less resistance, less friction when going in a straight line, because it was only like using the middle part of the tire. And of course they had to kind of rebalance it for going through turns. But if you manage to like be good with your slip angle and drifting and whatsoever, it's not a big deal. But they were over pressurizing the tires on purpose to be faster on the straights, and basically exploiting
the game mechanic, which was not 100% accurate. So it's stuff like that. And I think I remember when coming into ACC and sim racing, there were quite a lot of clips from people who were able to really abuse and cheat in the game to just go faster, literally just gain 2/10 per lap without making any sense, but just finding a way to really exploit some things in the game that have not been fixed. So
right.
But I think they got a really good grip on that actually with the last patches.
Yeah, and it's amazing what, like you mentioned, Aris, and when you watch his streams, it's amazing the level of depth Kunos goes to with the physics in ACC, like just things you wouldn't think of. They sort of famously now made a video about the drainage at the Paul Ricard circuit, or was it Kyalami?
Kyalami as well, maybe both of them, but I'm
yeah.
And then you get the comments of like people. Like they say, look, if you would only spend the time in like a better multiplayer UI or something like that.
That's true. But it's an amazing, at times strange hobby we have, but I'm grateful for it. So
sometimes I just take the time when I'm in my car in the pit lane and I just use the FreeCam F7 and just zoom around in the cockpit, and you can basically read what's on the fire extinguisher. And I'm like, that's so cool. And I remember the day when I discovered that actually the Pirelli tires have the real barcode on the outside. And it's details like that. I mean, it was like Aris was like, the Kunos developers would be asking like how much detail you want, and we just say yes.
Yes, exactly. All of it. Yeah, I know. And this is the ultimate sim racing nerd thing to do. But something ACC has that I think is amazing at the grandstands on most of the tracks, or like the I don't know what you would call it, but like above the paddock area, there's like seating areas, and they have actual chairs and actual people, and you can use the free cam, and you can just go up there and then press play on your replay and just watch these GT3 cars screaming by, and it feels like you're in a box watching the race, and it's just amazing. Like it's so cool. So immersive. So
once I discovered that, I think I actually the time I have like 800 hours in ACC, and I think at least 100 is just flicking through replays and doing screenshots. So yeah, there's that. That kind of compromises, like when somebody asks, "Hey, how much time did you spend in ACC?" and I'm like 800, but it's like, okay, literally just probably like only 500 have been spent driving.
Yeah, and you keep busy with liveries too, right?
Oh my god, yeah.
Not for ACC, of course, but or what sims do you focus on? Like ACC or
ACC is like actually really the only one I managed to invest some time. I actually really I'm thinking about getting into another one, just to like, I think it can't hurt to like get the feeling or experience something else. But it's like ACC is so big, and my community builds up around ACC, and so I'm like, literally, if I could afford to do that full time, I'd probably get started in iRacing, because it looks fascinating. I would really love to drive something else, like either a prototype car or you know, something like that on Le Mans or stuff like that. But but ACC is so huge, and I'm actually right now at a point where I'm trying, because of my community, because of the many questions that are out there, and to learn as much as possible, to like be able to share or like document. The goal of this channel that I made was always to like kind of like document my learning process and my steps, and hopefully make it easier for other people who are now flooding in. I mean, literally sim racing is growing so big right now that a lot of new people are coming in, and I'm just trying to learn as much and compile all the info that is out there, kind of like really tie it all together and shape it into a form that is easier to understand, and makes it easier for people to approach sim racing. And ACC is so big that it doesn't leave any time. And as you said, one of the other things is basically the hobby in the hobby, which is working on custom liveries. It's just, I don't know what it is. It's the same like when you tune your car with a spoiler or something, or a different bumper. It's just, it's so much more fun.
Yeah. Oh, I had a question. What was going to be my question? Oh yeah, no, I was going to say that's interesting to hear that what you're shaping your channel around is sort of the growth and your entry into sim racing, because that's kind of how I built my channel. And I have people email me and they'll say, I've recently decided to start a sim racing channel. How do I get viewers? And one of the things I always tell them is answer the questions you asked when you were a new sim racer. Like
Yeah,
to me, that's kind of an easy way to do it, because we all start out and we don't know, what are the best wheel settings for ACC with my G29, or how do I, or whatever, what's the fastest GT3 car at Monza?
yeah,
And you Google it, and then you scroll through and find the best answer, kind of thing. And sometimes you ask a question that nobody has answered. And that, to me, is the easiest way to create content. Is if you are looking up something and you have to dig really deep and do a lot of research to get the answer, turn that into a video. Like it's a good way, I think, to sort of form your channel around a very useful thing, because we're all learning, we're all growing, and there's so many
yeah,
questions to be asked, and sometimes, and there's a lot of answers. To be fair, that's a great community, and there's a lot of answers to the questions you might have, but sometimes you do run into a question that just nobody has answered. And so yeah, that's a never-ending well of content, I think, is trying to sort of share your knowledge gaps and how you answered them as you're growing as a sim racer.
yeah, absolutely. And what
Yeah.
what for me is like kind of when I started out, and I was like, I think the first track I practiced in ACC was Nürburgring, because I was like asking what's the track I should practice that like
Mm.
basically raced everywhere, and either it's Monza or Nürburgring.
Yeah.
And I was starting to practice Nürburgring. Of course, you start to look up like track guides or what other people are doing, and you're happy
Mhm.
with your 2 minute 3 second lap, and then you find a video, 1:53, and you're like, are you
Yeah.
shitting me?
Yeah, I know.
And that was like one of the biggest learning outcomes for me, is like, okay, I need to really stop comparing myself to that, because that
Mhm.
is just the biggest frustration when you see other people pulling off these times. And because most of the time you don't know how many hundreds or thousands of laps they practiced until they got there, or how many thousands of hours they spent, or
Mhm.
since when they are doing that. Because for sim racing, the thing is that you basically can't catch up with someone like that. If you just start
Yeah.
out and the other guy has 5,000 hours, you can't catch up. And you just, if you understand that and find your way to just enjoy the game at your own pace, you
Mhm.
will be in for so much better of an experience.
Yeah, so much more enjoyable. I totally agree. Some months ago, I posted a video. I had got a paid setup for Nürburgring. And I think
Hmm.
the real world record, if I'm not mistaken, is kind of in the mid 156s. And I got this paid setup, and my second lap around, I got a 155. I was like, yay, like I'm almost a full second faster than the real record. This is amazing. This feels so good. I'm a legit sim racer. And then uh, the very next day, I tuned into this guy's stream. He has a channel, this guy Cryptic TMG, and
Yeah.
he was practicing and he was running 153s and frustrated with it. He was trying to fix his setup because he wanted to be in 152s. I was just like, "What? You're 4 seconds faster than the real world record?" Like, man, yeah.
It's,
So I'll never be on their level, and it's like you say, you just got to stop comparing yourself to them. Like they're in their own world. Maybe they have 5,000 hours of practice. Maybe they're just naturally talented. Who knows? But yeah, they can do their thing. I'll be happy over here being slow.
absolutely. It's just one thing that's no fun to me at all, is like doing hot laps, like just repeating lap after lap after lap after
Mm,
lap, trying to beat a lap time. It's just so boring. I don't
right.
enjoy it. I rather go on track, and I just recently started organizing like my own community races, thanks to like SimRacing GP being able to
Oh, right
just
on.
start a server and hop on and don't need to think about anything. And it's so cool to get on the track with like the different people from the community and just have a good time. There is
Mhm.
absolutely zero pressure to win or perform. It's just try to have a good time, have a clean race, and
Right.
just enjoy it with the guys who are watching you. And it's
Yeah.
so much cooler because it takes all the pressure away of like having to perform.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So let me just quickly look into chat.
Yeah, I think we missed a couple of questions.
Big question from Peter that I actually want to ignore is like, what should a well-balanced car feel like? We don't want to get into car physics right now. Do you think sim racing is mature enough to effectively produce a Formula One champion in years to come? Boo.
Whoops. Sorry about that. Bumped my camera. Short answer from me is no. I think I could see somebody sort of supplementing their real world racing with more sim racing. Maybe somebody comes up and they're, doing well in Formula 4 or Formula 3 and, using their downtime to sim race and get used to the feeling of a Formula 2 or Formula 1 car and then kind of graduating up. And they could certainly become champion, but I think most of their championship level skill would boil down to their real world experience rather than their sim racing. I think sim racing, at least for the foreseeable future, will just continue to be sort of a practice tool at best. What about yourself? What do you think?
I mean, we have some crazy exceptions. I just remember, I think, wasn't it like Gran Turismo, the driver academy, where they actually had people qualifying in the game, and then actually the guy that came out on top was definitely pretty much blast around the track as well. So I think there are these exceptions out there, or is it James Baldwin who is driving for Team Jensen, who is like, oh my god, he's not only quick in the game, he's quick in the British GT as well. So there are these exceptions. However, I think maybe Formula One is just a step too high. Because I think the demands not only from your body, but you actually need a shitload of money to get into it. But I think it's a whole other level, and you can't really compare it with GT racing. So maybe, I have to be completely honest. If I look at the drivers at Formula One nowadays, it feels like we have like school kids doing all the racing, and I can't remember it being like that in the days of like Damon Hill or Montoya. I don't really remember drivers being ever that young. Like, I think the average age of Formula One drivers really declined right now, or they just look so young. I don't know what it is, what's their secret, but it actually means that they would have to start sim racing at the age of 5 or something to be ready, but they rather spend the time going karting and formula driving and stuff like that. So
exactly, and I think that is invaluable. It's funny, I was talking to my wife about this morning. She was asking me, would a sim racer ever make it as a pro driver? And I said, yes, there's certainly cases where it does happen. But the three big things that immediately stand out as reasons why it would be tough to only do sim racing and then make the jump to pro racing is, number one, the G forces, the stresses on your body. I mean, the best motion rig in the world cannot reproduce what a real race car does to the body. It takes a physical toll on you. So there's that. The driver has to be physically ready for real world competition. And then the second thing is consequence. If you or I mess up on a hot lap in ACC, press escape, you start again, no big deal. But it has life-threatening implications in the real world, of course. And so there's that mental aspect, and also the money. Again, going back to the escape and restart thing, you have to have a respect for the amount of work and the amount of money that goes into building a race car. So I think that's sort of learned through experience in the real world. So I think those three are probably the biggest gaps that would hold the sim racer back from being a real world racer.
I think the physical aspect is really important, because I remember Jimmy Broadbent going for karting. Somebody invited him to go karting, and I think he was dead after 4 laps. Because if you're just sitting at home in a sim rig, there's no physical strain, depending on how hard your force feedback is, but that's just your arms, basically. But the G forces, when you see in Drive to Survive, look at the necks of the Formula One drivers. They have tiny heads with huge necks because of the G forces they have to endure and stuff like that. So, and as Pete is actually cool. Comment is like, you want a good example of a skill gap is watch Max Verstappen race in a simulation. Yeah, I think during the pandemic, like Leclerc and all the guys were like getting into sim racing, and you could see like they like don't stand a chance against the experienced sim racers.
I think Max had a good run, didn't he? Like there was some video that was floating around. I want to say it was about a year ago. He was driving a Formula 3 car in iRacing and just set some blistering lap. Like I think he got a world record actually. So I think there is,
there are exceptions everywhere.
True. Yeah,
but I think, as we saw yesterday in the British GT race, there were kind of few GT3 cars driven by real-world drivers that had some questionable race etiquette. But
can you tell me about that? I keep seeing people post about, it didn't go well at Alton Park. I tuned in for like 5 minutes of it. What happened?
To be honest, it's a nasty track for mixed races. It's really nasty. And I have a race coming up tomorrow there at Old Park in a GT4, so I already know what to expect. And I actually did just a video because one of my moderators was into that kind of stuff with GT racing, and he shared an onboard with me from a BMW M6 GT3 car at Oldham Park. And they actually really showcase how nice and easy mixed racing could be if you just respect the rules and each other. But as you just basically explained before, that the game takes all of that away because there are no consequences. You crash out, it's bad for the other guy, but yeah, who cares? You just press escape.
Yeah,
there is like no 500,000 damage or something. So I think that's kind of the challenge for the guys. But there were a lot of questionable maneuvers. I haven't seen them all. I just remember the one red Merc, the AMG GT3, just really ramming a GT4 car off the track for no apparent reason, just like dive bombing through there. And it's just like, wow, you don't do that in real life, so why do it in the game? Because you can. Yeah, we just blew an engine, need 65,000 to replace it. Ouch.
Yeah.
More questions. The secret that makes Hamilton as good is he and his dad built their own go-karts when he was a kid, so he knows about what cars can do and how they work. Yeah, absolutely. If you grew up with that.
A very good point is that, Hamilton started, actually, if I'm not mistaken, he started with radio control cars even, and just sort of understood the basic principles of racing, even with remote control cars. And then, I got into karting, and there's the famous stories of, he and his dad working 5 jobs and, sleeping 2 hours and driving Lewis to the racetrack, and Lewis going out there and giving it his all and being a great karting guy, and then having to fix their car themselves, or their cart rather, themselves. And there's points like that where it's just invaluable. There's no what would you say, sim equivalent of that.
Yes, RC cars for Hamilton. Peter just confirmed it. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, it's the same story anywhere. If you look at like some documentaries about some MotoGP riders, they start on pocket bikes. They can barely walk or talk, but hey, they can ride a pocket bike, and that's just starts the debate kind of, did that guy really have a childhood, or was he just like basically forced into this because his father wanted him to be a race driver? And what would he have done if he, had a different father? So yeah, that's just like a whole other debate. But yeah, basically the secret to the success of race drivers is you need to start basically pretty soon after you have been born. So you need to get into this, and you honestly, you need to be pushed into this by your parents, because when you're 5 years old, you don't say, I want to drive a race car. Well, probably some say that, but usually it's like you want to be a fireman or an astronaut or something.
Right,
So you really have to be kind of like pushed into that. And of course, your parents need the resources for that. And I think that's really unfortunate to see that this didn't really change in the past, 100 years or so, that it still has such a huge and high threshold to get into racing, because I'm pretty sure there are quite a lot of talents out there who would deserve a chance, but they just can't get it because there's no way they can finance a seat like that.
That is true. That is true. And like you say, there's no real foreseeable way around that. I mean, Hamilton being the exception, he didn't grow up with a lot of money, but for the most part, it is people who have access to the financial resources to get a proper engineer, to tune the car and the car itself. You need, if you're in the lower ranks of racing, a set of tires, a set of brakes every race.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. It just adds up. And so it's financially restricting for sure. But yeah, I mean the good news is so many people like it's a bit like soccer or football as you call it. It's so international, right? And racing is that as well. You can find racing on any continent, and it's popular even if it's a different series. So there is a lot of options out there, and even if it's not, even if you don't make it to Formula One, Formula Two, GT3, or anything like that, there's still, if you're set on being a race car driver, there are options out there. You might have to work extremely hard to stay in a racing series, but there are lots of, ways to still be involved in racing.
Absolutely.
And if all else fails, go to sim racing, of course.
Yeah, or just do the Fast and Furious approach, but that's more risky,
Yeah.
depending on where you live. If you like, I think if you live in Monaco, nobody gives a shit what you do there. It's insane. See the videos of the people in their $1 million cars blasting through the tunnel there. That's absolutely crazy. Peter is asking if you created your own man cave, your own sim studio in your basement, or.
Yeah, so I'm in my garage right now, and just in the corner of my garage. It's not a pretty area. I'll make sure I don't pan the camera around too much, but just a mess. We downsized. My house right now is a lot smaller than the house I moved from, and so we just ended up with a bunch of extra stuff that we're still in the process of getting rid of. So I kind of carved out one corner of this messy space though and made it my own, and it's just kind of my space. I thought of, because I do have a spare bedroom in my house, and I thought about moving my sim rig up there, but the problem I have is it's right next to my daughter's bedroom. So if I was trying to record at night or something like that, it would keep her up. So
I hope it's a warm garage, right?
No, it's freezing. Canadian winters are not kind. There's no heating at all down here, and it goes one of two ways. It's either freezing in the winter, and I'll go upstairs, and I'm like shivering almost, or in the summer it just gets so hot and humid down here that it's intolerable. But I don't know. Somehow I make it work.
Oh, Jesus. It was the same like with Chris. He was also saying that like the studio sitting in his doesn't really have any heating, and he was shivering at the end of the podcast. So, oh my God, I'm making my guests suffer. What is happening?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, any other questions in the chat right now? I don't think so. It's what I have another question. What car are you driving?
Like in the real world?
Yeah, what's your car?
Oh, I have a Chevrolet Volt. So it's
cool.
a hybrid electric car.
You're going the responsible way. I appreciate that.
Yeah. What's funny is that like I drive like a senior citizen in the real world. I get my sort of excitement out of driving from sim racing, and on the roads I'm totally responsible.
That's good.
Yeah, and have a very conservative car. It's funny, like I've never owned a hybrid before, and I was kind of nervous about it, but I love it. I think it's fantastic. It's incredible how economical it is to operate. So, it's kind of lame. I wish I had a better answer for you. But
no, I think, honestly, I think times are changing, and we kind of need to get over that. I don't want to say like the era of like combustion engines is over, but I think if we want to progress, we kind of need to get over that. As shit as it sounds, as a motor sport fan and sim racing fan, and love to watch and hear V8 cars, GT3 cars and stuff like that, but I think we as human beings kind of need to get over that somehow. I know it's stupid, but if I really can't stand watching car tests, like whenever they do comparisons, the first thing they need to put a car through is like, how fast is it from 1 to 100, and how fast is it on 200 kilometers per hour? I'm like, dude, have you looked at the traffic outside? I don't give a shit how fast the car accelerates.
Yeah.
It's fun on the paper, but I mean, seriously, grow up. And I know that's probably an unpopular opinion if you're in a motorsport community, but yeah, I mean, that's the same with the electric cars. The only thing they do is like, how often can I get it from 1 to 60 miles until it gives up? And I'm like, dude, why?
Yeah. Yeah, I know, it's strange. Yeah, and it's funny, I feel the exact same way. Like, every time there's a new Porsche, every time there's a new Ferrari, they will list the time from 0 to 100, and it's like, they went from 3.2 seconds to 3.0 seconds. Oh my goodness. And it's like, number one, how many people can afford Ferraris? Not very many. And number two, how many people are willing to push their, ultra expensive exotic car that hard that, that 0.2 seconds is going to matter? And they do the same thing. Like they push a Rolls Royce around the Nürburgring and publish the time. It's like, that is a completely irrelevant statistic to a Rolls Royce owner. Like, I can't understand the obsession with, these fast times or with these lap times and stats. And same thing with top speed. I can't remember the name of the car, but there was a big controversy about, some car had set some new top speed record. And I was just like, who cares?
It was
like,
probably a
zero
Bugatti
people in the world who are going to drive a car 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's just silly to me.
I kind of get the fascination of the technology behind it. I'm just like fascinated how far you can push it, but in like really in terms of like what's important for like if you want to think about the future, it's absolutely unnecessary. But that's the thing. It's like when I see the next Lamborghini or the next Bugatti, and I'm like, why? I just use the resources and the money for, I don't know, cancer science or whatever, but not stupid race cars. But I mean, I get it. It's the fascination. It's just the thrill, and I would say I don't enjoy watching and listening to these cars. But yeah, it's kind of like, I think it's time to kind of move on. And for sure in the next coming 10 to 20 years, a lot will change. I mean, for myself, I'm not really a car driver. I'm the motorcycle guy. I have a motorcycle, an Aprilia, and I rather use that. And that it's, if we're honest, that's even more unnecessary, because you just can drive it like 4 months in the year, and the rest of it's just in the garage. So it's like really the stupidest thing you can actually buy. But you buy it because it evokes emotions in you, and it's a passion, and you enjoy it. And that's why people buy V8 cars. I mean, if I would have the money and the place, I would actually buy, I don't know, a 69 Mustang Mach 1, or like an old Challenger or an old Camaro or stuff like. I just love the cars. They don't build them like that anymore, and I think that's such a gap. I mean, how cool would it be if you could buy like a 69 Mustang, just the look of it, but the inside is all full electric or full hybrid with modern suspension, interior, climate, and everything. But from the outside, it's this huge, awesome muscle car that everybody knows and loves. I mean, how cool would that be? And they just don't do it.
Yeah, well, that's you're talking about Singer. Are you familiar with Singer Porsches?
Yeah, I think I heard that they're
so
doing
they do
stuff like that.
mods, and I don't remember the Porsche model number, but it's the last air-cooled Porsche, if I'm not mistaken. And they just basically gut it and make a bespoke version for buyers, and they're ultra expensive. I think they're $200,000 or $300,000. But you have this beautiful Porsche. Somebody will probably correct me in chat here with the proper Porsche number, but anyway, this old school looking Porsche with modern suspension and a modern engine, and they're just unbelievably nice. So you get that combination of modern technology with old school looks. So
And if it
993,
wouldn't, yeah, and you see there is market for that. Of course, it's like the high end because you pay like $250,000 for it. But
Yeah.
I can't believe that there wouldn't be like a solution that if Ford would just say, look, we have it, we can just basically produce it, and we just make a modern version of it. And
Yeah.
I think it would sell crazy because it's just, I mean, the looks of the cars is just, yeah. Really unfortunate that not more. I mean, in general, I think car manufacturers are just holding back. They should be bolder in terms of like the design and what they want to do. But let's see. I think the next 10, 20 years we'll really see a lot of change. And the funny thing is actually that it was a company that didn't build any cars before that kind of woke them up a few years ago. And is now going to Mars, next step probably. So it's good to see that some of the millionaires out there are actually trying to push the boundaries of what's possible and inspire other people and manufacturers to kind of try something new. But anyway, like Billy says, high-end sim racing gear is unnecessary as well. Absolutely. I mean, why are we even sitting here?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But yeah, awesome car choice. I think it's a cool car choice. I like that.
Yeah. I think we were talking about how people or manufacturers are pushing too hard on top speed or 0 to 60 time.
Yeah.
What I would like to see is somebody to produce a car that does 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, which is really, really fast, but also can go full electric for, say, 60 miles or 100 kilometers. So you could use it as a daily commuter. And those specs, those base specs, and have it come in at, say, $30,000 or $40,000. In other words, like there's so much focus on the high end of performance, but if we took even a moderate number by today's standards and made it economical, I think that would be an unbelievably good vehicle. And I guess we kind of have that. I don't know how big Tesla is in Austria, but Teslas are everywhere here in Western Canada now. And I think the Model 3 pretty much accomplishes what I just said. But
you see it kind of, but I mean, you see it more and more, but I think it's no comparison to like, I think countries like, was it either Norway or Denmark, where they're basically selling more Teslas than anything else right now. I think it's either Denmark or Norway. I'm not sure which one right now. And there is so much discussion going on in the European Union right now that within the next like 30 years, they actually want to basically forbid and cancel combustion engines so that you're not allowed for new cars. Like you buy a car, it has to be electric. Or you can't register it and stuff like that. So, but anyway, I don't think that within the next 30 years the infrastructure will be ready for that. So that's the other issue. And I think until then, maybe sim racing will be even more important, because then you have to get the kick of like the sound and the feeling somewhere else, or you get a sound system in your electric car that sounds like a V12 Lambo or whatsoever.
Could
There's
do
a
that
whole
too.
new market.
Yeah.
In countries where car mods are legal, engine swapping and adding coilovers to old car chassis is really the way to go. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. Put a coilover suspension in, swap an engine. I mean, it's a lot of work, so you really got to commit. But I think there's a lot to be had there.
I think I saw a questions around, hi Boonheimer, I'm late to the broadcast. Mike, I purchased an AccuForce version 2 and I really enjoy it. It was hard to get adjusted. Is there a video that you have showing your force feedback settings?
There are a number of videos that I put out about force feedback settings, but they don't really apply anymore because the latest version of or versions of Sim Commander have cloud-based force feedback settings. So if you have the Sim Commander software for your AccuForce, there's a little cloud icon in the top right-hand corner of the game icons, and you can launch the game and it crowdsources your force feedback, and it gets you pretty close. The only thing I usually have to dial down, sorry, who asked the question? I didn't see the name.
It was 369 Dark Knight, I think. He also asked another question that's really interesting, actually.
Okay. But yeah, Dark Knight, the way to go, I think, is with those cloud-based force feedback profiles. They're fantastic. It really takes you from the AccuForce baseline force feedback, I don't think is that great, but with the Sim Commander, it's outstanding, and the cloud-based ones are even better. So yeah, I haven't done a video in a while, but quite frankly, there's nothing I can really add to the conversation. Just use the cloud-based force feedback profiles. They're really great.
That's actually a cool topic because I've made a short video about because people have been asking me about my force feedback settings on the Fanatec, and since I made the video, I changed it 3 times because of other people suggesting other settings or me finding other settings, and it's so crazy because Darklight also says, do you think that force feedback can contribute to oversteer or understeer? Because I always thought having a wheel you have to fight was the best, but now I don't think that anymore, and I'm actually kind of going through that right now because my wheel settings always have been pretty strong, having a wheel that gives you strong feedback and you need to fight. But I'm now experimenting with some lighter settings where you don't have to fight your wheel so much more, and it actually gives you a completely different feeling while driving because I mean, you are longer into this. What's your experience with that?
Light, go light always. You hear these stories about esports competitors and they turn their force feedback right off. I don't really get into that. I find it feels weird, but definitely go lighter. If anything, you definitely shouldn't have to fight it. It can affect your time, if for no other reason than your arms get tired by the end of the race. But my sort of, what would you say, principles of setting force feedback are I turn the gain quite far down, and then turn sometimes they call it FX or road noise or whatever, up to about a middle level. And then I drive with that, and can I feel the curbs? Can I feel understeer? Can I sort of feel what the car is doing? And then just gradually, just in tiny increments, add a little bit more gain until it's hard to explain because it's based on feeling. But I keep things very, very light. I don't think you should ever have to fight your force feedback. And there's a counter argument that real world race cars are you're really wrestling them around, but I don't think that's actually the case. I've heard that modern race cars have really advanced power steering systems, and they're actually very light to operate, very easy to steer. So I think if anything, keep it light. That's sort of what I go with.
I think it just looks like they are fighting because they are reacting so quick to every movement the car does. And fun thing is actually that I saw a little short documentary about modern race cars. I think it's not implemented or legalized yet, but they are actually using force feedback. Like having your direct drive system in the car, and the driver can adjust how strong he wants the feedback or the steering to be. So that's like the next step in GT racing probably, but who knows? So but I'm really going through this right now because I discovered from James, the fastest gamer from the Jensen Button team. He has started a little video series, and he's sharing his because he uses the Fanatec CSL Elite, and he shared his settings. And I was surprised because his settings and also the in-game settings in ACC were at the far lower end. And I tried them out today, and I was like, this feels so strange because the steering wheel feels so light. It doesn't give you any, you don't have to fight the wheel, although he turned the road effects up to I think 50%. And when going in a straight line, my wheel was doing all kinds of strange noises. So that was I don't know if that's right, but it sounds weird. But anyway, his settings were the complete opposite of mine, and he's much, much faster. So I'm okay, maybe I've been on the wrong track, and maybe I don't need to have a fitness workout every hour I do league racing. So maybe I should take it a bit lighter. So that's a really interesting topic right there.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah.
Mike, give Boonatix your thoughts on field of view. Oh my god.
Yeah, I've made so many videos on FOV, and every one I regret doing because I post it, and there's mathematical calculations that you can use based on the screen size and your the distance to your screen and the aspect ratio of your screen. And I make these videos, and then invariably people come in and they say, what are you talking about? FOV doesn't matter, and it's all an illusion. And here's how it really works. I'm a photographer. FOV is a lie. So I think I've made 4 or 5 FOV videos, but I've definitely made my last because I cannot stand the counter arguments. For me, okay, I'll just say this. I'll say for myself, FOV I think is important. I try and use one of the FOV calculators you can find online, and for me, I have a 34-inch ultra wide screen, and I sit about 50 centimeters from it. So I use that. I plug in the values. It tells me it's, I think, 35 degrees in Assetto Corsa, and that's what I use. And if I ever find that sometimes the A pillar on the car will be just right at the edge of the screen, so it takes away probably 20% of your viewing angle. So in that case, I'll pull the view back a little bit. I'll leave the FOV where it is, but I'll pull the camera back a little bit so you can see outside of the A pillars. But yeah, generally that's how I do it. I just use the mathematical formulas.
I think I tried it once and it didn't really work, so I just went with something that kind of feels natural to me, but then you go into another car and it's completely screwed up again. So yeah. I think it's a science that, as you said, can provoke a lot of discussions actually. So I won't even get into doing a field of view video. I think there's enough out there.
Norman Robinson actually brings up an excellent point. For the best FOV, get VR. That is true. That is true. You never have to worry about it after that. VR is perfect FOV. And then it looks like Billy is trolling us on the comments there. FOV is a lie. Fake news.
Okay. Anyway, I hope you're not freezing to death in front of me.
No. I'll thaw out. Don't worry.
Okay. Once you stop moving, I'm concerned. Okay. Virtual reality, I think, is like a huge topic. I know that just my girlfriend is driving ACC in virtual reality, and she had so much struggles with the performance, and then basically Kunos admitted that they focused on triple screens, and that's why the virtual reality performance is not so good, and it's really tricky to get it set up right. But I heard like in AC or in various Formula 1 games, I think it's a pretty cool experience actually with modern virtual reality glasses. Did you ever try it?
Yeah, I have the first generation Oculus Rift, so it's in terms of technology, it's quite old, and it looks like you're looking through a screen door. Like the image quality isn't that great, but even with that old technology, it's unbelievable. Like it's just so good. The first time I ever tried it was in the what car is it? The SF70H in Assetto Corsa. Anyway, the 2017 Ferrari F1 car in Assetto Corsa, and I threw on the headset and jumped into game, and just all of a sudden I'm sitting there on the start finish straight of Monza, looking around. Everywhere you look, you see the little details of your F1 car, and you see the grandstands, you see the pit boxes, and it's I'm not even exaggerating. I couldn't breathe for a second. Like it just literally took my breath away. It was just so incredible. I still sometimes use VR, but it's kind of a pain to record with. I'd say at least half of my time spent sim racing is sim racing for videos, and it's just tough to try and get your screen capture to work. And when it records, it's looking only out of the left eye, so it looks weird. But in terms of immersion, in terms of fun, nothing can beat VR. It's absolutely amazing. You haven't tried, or you have tried it. You said your girlfriend's using VR.
Well, she's doing it. I've never tried it. I don't want to try it because I might get even more stupid ideas. So
you absolutely should. As soon as we're done here, you have to go try it. I'm telling you, you will love it. It's so amazing. It's going to change your life.
I would actually rather go for it like a really immersive triple screen setup. But yeah, I lack the room for it. So that But as you said, for like recording and streaming, it's not really an option, and that's my main focus. But yeah, maybe for the fun of it. But did you have like any issues with like getting nauseated or like?
A lot of people do, and I think I saw that question in chat actually. So what I've heard, there was a channel called SimRacing604. My friend Dan, I don't think he makes videos anymore, but he did a video dedicated exactly to this. And what he was saying was try and get the FPS as high as possible. In most cases, shoot for 90 FPS. Oculus has a system, I can't remember what they call it, but it basically uses software to scale 40. Bump my camera again, sorry. To scale 45 FPS up to 90, and highly recommend that you either use that or turn your settings to the point where you can sustain 90 FPS. That helps. And always keep yourself pointing forward, because I have a pretty strong stomach and VR never bothered me except when I get turned around. If I spin the car, oh man, it does not feel good.
I heard it from my girlfriend. She has the same issues when she gets spun around. It's like, ooh, that's good, that's good. Racing sim tools. I love your content. The podcast interview type streams are awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Good to have your racing sim tools. Really nice tool to use, actually. If you have you ever heard of racing sim tools? It's like Motec. Motec, I think it's similar to Motec with like a really cool database behind it. So it's a really cool thing to like track your laps, record your laps, and compare with recordings and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
But nice to have the guys on stream. That's actually cool. What's both your favorite cars on what track? Oh my god.
You go first.
It's easier because I only play ACC so far. So I would actually say I enjoy the Bentley quite a lot, actually. But on which track? Probably have to say Kyalami. I love that track. I don't know what it is. I just love it.
It's incredible, that track. They did such a great job with it. And actually, there was some pro driver I was reading recently who said if like the closest a racing sim gets to reality is the Bentley at Kyalami in Assetto Corsa Competizione. So
seriously,
that's a perfect choice. Yeah.
I didn't know that. But I have to say, Mount Panorama is a really close second. This was the racetrack I was scared the most of to learn. And since I kind of learned it, I've kind of yet to master it. But since I learned it, I absolutely enjoy it because I think it gives the best immersion in sitting in a car and being so close to the walls, getting a feeling for the speed it's insane. I would actually really love to. Every time I drive Mount Panorama, I just want to get there and just get into a car and just drive it slowly. But just like get like how it feels to like drive through there. It's just, yeah, it's really, really tough choice between Kyalami and Mount Panorama. But I have to say the Bentley. It's such a nice car to drive. It's big, but I love how it looks. I love how it sounds, and it doesn't even bother me sitting on the right. So it's a great car. So sorry, Mike, but now it's your turn.
If I'm sim racing for me and really want to appreciate what I have in this amazing era of racing titles that we have, it's the McLaren P1, which is my favorite car in the entire world. I think it's the greatest car ever made. Take that out to LA Canyons. It's a mod for Assetto Corsa, and it's basically, I can't remember how long it is, 30 kilometers or something of just open world cruising in Southern California. And I don't know, it just takes me away. Whatever's stressing me out in life, whatever I've got going on, when I use that car track combination, it takes me away. I'm just in a different world, and it's me playing pretend. Basically, I'm a grown man, but I'm a little kid at heart, and it's just this pretend thing that I'll never be able to do, but I absolutely love it, and all my troubles just kind of go away when I'm there. But let me see. For race cars, though, I would have to go ACC again, or I'd have to go ACC like you, I should say. The Lamborghini, I think, is amazing. The newer one, the Evo, the sound of that V10 is just unbelievable. Just crazy. Just shakes your eardrums. And for tracks, I might go Kyalami as well. I might go Kyalami. Yeah, it's got. Oh, actually, no. I know exactly which one it is, and people are tired of me talking about this. I always bring this up, but Suzuka at 5 a.m. I don't know if you've tried this yet, but go to Suzuka at 5 a.m. and set the time acceleration to 2x. And by about the third or fourth lap, the sun is just peeking up over the horizon
Oh my
with the
God.
Ferris wheel in the foreground. It's unbelievable. It's so great. So that's a little piece of racetrack heaven there.
I love that. I actually have been fiddling around with like the sunset or like the sunrise in ACC because it's so beautiful, and I actually think people are getting tired of me posting screenshots like that with the sun over the car and behind the car and next to the car, and but it looks so insane. And I just learned that trick that actually when you have the replay from ACC, and you I think most of the people save the high quality version, you just crank up your graphic settings for the replay, and even if it just stutters a tiny bit, you can like up the quality of your screenshots by so much if you just can endure a bit of stuttering or FPS drops, because in the replay it doesn't really matter. I mean, important thing is it looks good, and I mean the way that game looks is just insane. It's absolutely mind-blowing. You can make so many immersive screenshots like that. Although driving against the sun, like I saw in the Porsche Cup car at Silverstone, is not so much fun. When you just can't see your brake marker. And the funny thing is, I raised my hand a couple of times like that, and like, stupid idiot, you're just playing a game.
Funny.
So that's really tricky.
Yeah.
Rob has been enjoying my series on livery creation. Awesome. What about Tokyo Japan Highway mod? I really need to get into Assetto Corsa, as it sounds like that. I think there are pretty cool mods out there. Mike, I think maybe you can help me get started with that at some point, because I have no clue about Assetto Corsa mods.
Yeah, no, I always get these people emailing me like, Mike, thanks to you, I had to buy a new 500 gigabyte hard drive just for my Assetto Corsa mods. So, yeah, if you want mods, I'm the guy to talk to.
I just read, somebody told me that there is like a mod of like, was it like, what's it called? The Japanese import tuners, or like there is a word for that. Jesus. I think there's a mod where you drive like really cool Japanese tuned cars like the Mazda RX-7 or stuff like that across like Japan Highway or Japan Mountains or something.
I think it's called, I'm getting the first word wrong, but Shutoko Revival Project or something like that.
Might have to give this one a try.
Yeah, they have their own Discord, and they're constantly doing updates, and yeah, it's beautiful. It's these Japanese multi-level highways, and yeah, it's open world. It's as close to free roam as you can really get in AC.
Wow.
Yeah, they do a great job with it. It's got its own like cult following as well. Shuto Expressway. Thank you, Pete. Yeah, it's just really great. There's a few good open world mods for Assetto Corsa for sure. And yeah, it was never meant to be played that way, but like everything in Assetto Corsa, it bears so little resemblance to what Kunos had envisioned for it in 2014.
I think that's just basically the secret of the success to the game. I think that other programmers or developers could really learn from some. You really get the impression that some developers are really scared from like opening up their game to mods, but in this case, it just, I mean, look at that. It's incredible. Yeah. Just keeps it alive 7 years after release. What better can you ask for? I mean, imagine Kunos now, I don't know, bringing a new DLC or something. There would be a ton of people still buying that. I mean...
Yeah, it's amazing how well it's worked out, and if I'm not mistaken, it's still climbing in popularity. Like I think, more or less every month, it's setting some new record for most concurrent users in Assetto Corsa. It's amazing, and there's still what was I going to say? There's still a few official cars coming. I don't know if you heard about this, but there's a Ferrari sponsored esport event.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So last season we got the 488 Challenge car, which was an official collaboration between Kunos and Ferrari, and then this year they're bringing in the 488 Evo, 488 GT3 Evo, I should say. So yeah, it's gonna be really cool. It's amazing to see new cars coming to a 7-year-old game that was effectively they stopped development 2 years ago.
Damn it, I really need to give it a try at some point. I think I bought the whole Assetto Corsa like collection on Steam when it was on sale for like just a couple of bucks, but I never started it. And because I know there are so many mods and the base game is just there's not so much in it, so I need to get into the mod. So I think at some point, like in the near future, I need to spend some time, because the Shuto Expressway open world Japanese tuner cars, that sounds exactly like my thing. I mean, driving a fully fledged Skyline through, I mean, just thinking about that gives me goosebumps. So yeah,
and it should be actually a fairly easy jump for you from ACC to AC, because it's actually and a lot of people don't know this, but it's actually the same suspension physics at play.
Nice.
Just they added more elements to ACC, but it generally feels the same. There's a bit less I guess you would say feel through the wheel, but overall it's a very similar experience, so it should be an easy jump.
Rob, Autumn Aspen is asking, do you know if there's a Pikes Peak hill climb mod for Assetto Corsa?
Yes, there is, and I see Billy already answered it. There's an asphalt/tarmac version. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. I think the dirt physics in Assetto Corsa probably wouldn't be conducive to having a full-on Pikes Peak or rally or things like that. But I think the one Billy is alluding to, I think I saw Jimmy Broadbent actually drive that once on a stream, and I think it's pretty good. If you're not too picky about the details for Pikes Peak, I think you'd be fine with the mod that's available. You just have to Google it. I don't actually know who makes it, but I think it's out there still.
So Derhazi is requesting we do a first Boonatix car meetup in AC, probably on the Japanese highways then. I think I need to think about that. Sounds like fun. Okay.
Yeah, actually. Sorry to cut you off there.
No worries. I just wanted to say that, okay, I probably need to just get a bit of help to get me set up with AC and the mods, and then I can do the rest, because I have the SimRacing GP servers. I can set up an Assetto Corsa like server and have a meetup and jump in and have some fun or something like that. I have no idea how Assetto Corsa and all the mods work out like that, or how you do the servers and stuff like that. So yeah.
For simracing.gp, they have a whole bunch of options as far as mod cars and mod tracks. They do support them, but everyone has to be running the most recent version of that mod. So something you might run into is people saying, I can't load into the server. It says I don't have the correct assets or something like that. And what it refers to is actually there's a newer version that SimRacing GP is expecting you to be running. And some people might not have the latest version. But overall, it's a fairly simple integration. But I think for those car meetups, you might have to do that outside of simracing.gp, and the only reason I say that is because I think there's a limit on the number of cars that can actually be at a given track. But anyway, those are details you could work through once you get.
I need like a server provider, or what? It's like the same way like the ACC lobbies, or
what was that? Sorry.
So I need like a server host.
Yes.
This,
I believe that's the case. I could be wrong about that, but I believe you might have to find your own host.
Okay, so yeah, that can be so. But yeah, sounds like a plan. I just need to get into AC. So yeah, so as long as we are on lockdown, I have some time to spare. So let's make use of that.
For sure. Yeah.
Mike, would you be into like a car meetup in Tokyo?
Yeah.
Like some Need for Speed Underground vibes.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, anyway, Mike, I mean, it's getting late here in Austria. I've kept you busy for 2.5 hours now, I think.
Wow, that went really fast. That was a fun chat. I didn't even notice time was going by. That's great.
Yeah, it's crazy. I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, it was amazing talking to you, and I just looked at the clock right now, and I said, like, oh my God, Jesus. I mean, you didn't even have anything to drink right now, I think, or did you?
No, I didn't. So
I'm gonna go upstairs, time to grab a beer. Yeah, absolutely. So we had a bunch of questions in the chat. That was really awesome. Second episode. I mean, Mike, thank you so much for having the time. And I think at some point in the near future, we might want to continue the chat and just, like continue where we stopped right now, which is Assetto Corsa. There's so much more to talk about.
Yeah, happily do that anytime. And thank you to everyone in chat who came out as well. Thanks for all the great questions.
Yes, it was really great to see. I mean, I have to just emphasize that one more. Is just how the community came together for you and for your channel, and it's just so good to see the mentality and everyone sticking together, and that we are here to support each other. So let's just continue doing that. Thank you everyone in chat who were watching, and greetings to everyone who might watch the podcast after we recorded it. If you enjoyed it, be sure, give us a thumbs up or subscribe if you haven't done so far to not miss any future episodes. And yes, there's like nothing more to say than, again, thank you so much, Mike. Enjoy the evening. Any last words for my stream before we finish?
No, I just thank you so much for having me, and thank you for this amazing chat. And yeah, thanks as always to the community for all the support, especially in recent weeks. It's been amazing. So yeah, have a great day, everyone.
Awesome. Talk to you soon, everyone. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Thank you so much. Bye bye, everyone.